pop up, and you know what that means. It means we are live.
We are live.
We are live. Hang on. Let me play this intro real quick for everybody. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live Pin the Gas podcast. And you know what time it is. This episode is sponsored by Next Level Financial by my man, Seth Starnes. Everybody know who Seth Starnes is. He'll take care of all your financial needs. And on top of that, you guys know the second thing I'm going to say, because I say it all the time, because I believe in who they are, their products, and what they stand for. And they're absolutely, hands down, the best on the planet. And that is Bison. So I need everybody to go to bisontrack.com and start it on your custom suit. Kole can contest to this. Shoot, every racer I've had on here says the same thing. Don't buy an off-the-rack suit because it's not going to fit you 100% perfectly, right? Well, for 90% of us, I'll say it's not going to fit us 100% perfectly, okay? And what that happens is when it don't, it hinders your riding style, your body position, causes arm pump, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So do yourself a favor. Go to bisontrack.com, get that full custom suit started where you pick the colors, you put the logos wherever you want them, you put your name on your back, on your side, wherever you want it. They're absolutely simply amazing people. And on top of that, you can get your custom gloves, your chest protector, your undersuit. They have it all. Even if you, let's say, Kole, you don't want a full leather suit, you can get a custom just leather jacket. You know, they do everything. But anyway, bisontrack.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to sit down with the legend himself, Kole King on Pin the Gas. What is up, Kole?
Not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot. Just 6 o'clock here, just kind of winding down the day, pretty much.
Yeah, I understand. I just got back from a birthday party. So yeah, it's 7 o'clock here, so I'm an hour ahead. When I get done with this, my wife's sick. She's not feeling too good, so she's got a cold. Maybe make her some ramen noodles or chicken noodle soup or whatever. I got my big shout out to my man Chef Eats, Jeff Servin. I know you heard of Chef Eats, Kole.
I have through you actually, and I've been looking into it. I haven't made an order yet, but I'm like, we're looking. It looks good. It looks good.
Bro, so he sent me, I just got some of my meals in. It was a Philly cheesesteak Alfredo tortellini, and it was absolutely amazing. Oh, dude. Yes, bro.
You got me on that.
It's again, just like Bison. Jeff is such a proper mega guy. His energy, what he does for the paddock, the meals he's prepared. I mean, if it wasn't any good, obviously, you know, I've tried a lot too. What is it? Fresh and Lean I've had, man, I can never remember the other one. Anyway, they send them to you, you know, and the chicken's dry and the steak's not that good because it's completely dry. Chef Eats it. Don't matter if it's pork, chicken, steak, Philly cheese steak. He makes breakfast. You put it in the microwave. That's what I love about microwave for 3 minutes. Take it out. Best meal. And he has different not different levels, but different meals, right? Whether you want seasoning, no seasoning, salt, no salt, athlete meals, all that. So listen, everybody, I say it all the time, Chef Eats. But yeah, Kole, I'll
about it.
Yeah, dude, right? He wants some Chef Eats.
He wants some Chef Eats or something. Hold on a second.
You're good. I love it. But yes, everybody, listen. You heard me say it all the time. Chef Eats. Go to Chef Eats, sign up, get your meals. Whether you're a racer or not, you can take them to work. You can eat them for dinner. You can eat them for breakfast. And I'm telling you, they're absolutely amazing. And you guys know what I'm talking about if you ever tried them. They're you know, I actually want to get a couple of those meals and bring them to the track and just walk around like at Sam's Club. You go to Sam's Club, they have little samplers, right? And just have people sample it. Like listen, you hear me talk about all the time. Here it is, try it. Tell me what you think, you know. He's absolutely amazing. But Kole, bro, I want to know your story. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a proper mega beautiful adventure, right, to where you are now. So I want to know all about your journey, where it started on the wonderful wheels of two.
All right. Well, so I'm from Burlington, Iowa, little river town, Iowa, Illinois border. There was a flat track right north of town. And I guess leading up to that, my dad, he was born in the 50s. He just turned 70 in May, actually. but he was real big into Harleys, real big into flat track. I've always gotten asked if I'm related to Rich King because he's a flat track legend icon, and we're both from the state of Iowa, same last names, race flat track, no relation there. But so dad was into Harleys. My uncle was into Harleys as well, and he started doing drag racing with Harleys. They bought a couple Z50s. They used the one Z50 to pull. They'd get the bike at the end of the drag strip, and they'd pull it back or whatever. Well, dad got the other one, and it stayed out here in the shop for a while. And I think I was probably 4 or 5. I think it was about 4. And I'd look at it, and I was like, okay, I'm not really interested. And I'd been riding a bicycle without training wheels probably since I was 2.5, damn near 3, and a little concrete patio. I just cut circles on the patio around the furniture. And we'd gone to that Flint Bottom Raceway a couple times and watched. And I think it was like the second or third time after I came out here to the shop, and I was looking at the bike, and I was like, I want to try that. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody burn multiple tanks of gas out of an XR50 or a Z50 in one day, but I sure as heck did. Dad got me pushed off, and away I rode. And I mean, it snowballed into that. We stayed racing at Flint Bottom through the 50s, got into District 17. So we were racing Galesburg, Macomb, a few other tracks like that over in Illinois that we were able to race on 50s and 65s. And I was doing a lot of that with KTMs, and went down to Winter Nationals quite a few times in Daytona. Growing up, I mean, I was racing Jake Lewis. I was racing the Gillums, McFadden. I mean, the list goes on. And I raced flat track basically my whole life. I went pro in 2012. I ran pro flat track from 2012 until 2017. Things got a little bit political, kind of like they all do in all sports. They started introducing they reintroduced the last couple of years. They reintroduced the production twins, and it was supposed to be they're supposed to be stock motors, basically custom. You can obviously build it into a flat track bike, but it's supposed to be a stock motor. Well, the first weekend, they had already made like 5 different rule changes to accommodate the XR750 because it wasn't a production twin, but they couldn't run the restrictors because they weren't running right, and they said it's not safe. So then they basically opened those guys up. Well, then there was other guys that were running that they rode for teams on, like when they were riding their 450s everywhere else, they rode for a team that had a national number guy riding for them. So they'd have these fully built motors, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to take this fully built motor and put it in the production twin bike, and we're going to race it. Well, I think it was like the last time that it was still supposed to be stock bikes. It was like me and I think it was me, Sean McNeary, or maybe it was Shane Narbonne. It was one of us, but we were just battling for last at Springfield Mile. Like we both direct transferred from the heat races straight to the mains due to people in front of us that broke or whatever. But we both direct transferred, and everyone left us. And for 20 laps, we were just drafting each other back and forth, dead last, handlebar to handlebar. It was the funnest, slowest, lamest race that I think I've ever been a part of, just because it was like, okay, we're following the rules. Nobody else is following the rules, and it showed, But yeah, so we kind of really put a dampener on it, and I got out of it at that point, and I rode some motocross the following year. Set out, got into the Hooligan Flat Track, the local Harley shop. They're like, hey, they're doing flat track at XGames. You want to get signed up for it? I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. Because you had to have a Harley dealer sign you up. And I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get signed up. Like, they're only taking 160 people, and then they're going to chop it down from there after the qualifier. I think it was 160 to 68 or 48 or something crazy like that. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to get accepted to go. I didn't think that I was going to make it. And I get a phone call about 3 months out, and they're like, "Hey, we got you signed up." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess I got to build a bike, And we built this Sportster here. My cousin Aaron King, Iron King Cycles out of Des Moines, helped me build the motor and everything. And we didn't know what we did. We put a whole front end off of ZX14. Actually, the inverted forks are. Fab Kevin built the trees. I believe he's East Coast, but he does like chopper stuff and machine work. And originally the front end was going to go on we're going to do like a panhead chopper, flat track style build, just something that we could ride on the street. And we didn't know if it was going to work. So we got it all together, got the motor built, and it was the Wednesday before we were supposed to leave that following Monday. The Wednesday before we got it together, got it running. We had it in street form. I put 100 miles on it, just riding all over town, trying to get it broke in. And then we started building it into a flat track bike. Well, that Friday was a race here in Galesburg, which is 45 minutes from me. Beautiful, loamy, tacky, short track. You can run it in, throw it on the cases, and took it there. And I was beating guys on Rotax framers, and I'm like, this thing, like, I got the whole shot, and I come around for the first lap, and I'm cruising into turn one, and I'm like, I don't think this thing's going to turn because it's a heavy bike, and bailed off in there, and it stuck. It handled great. I'm like, okay, well, I think we're good to go. And we ended up leaving Sunday for Industry Hills, California. The XGames qualifier was out there, and the race we had some problems. Like practice and qualifying, we were good, but come for the heat race, I had pole position, got the whole shot. Coming around the first lap, it just died on me. I'm like, okay, didn't know what was going on. I come to a stop. There's fuel puking everywhere out of it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, we just built this bike a couple days ago, pretty much. And turns out that tank is Taiwan Ted or where, I don't know what the name of it actually is, but I think it's kind of like a knockoff tank. It's a steel tank. It wasn't properly clean when it was put together. And a bunch of the steel shavings and everything that they're grinding on wound up in the carburetor and clogged the carb. The float stuck wide open, dumped fuel out. And they run them like speedway races out there in California. So it was bam, 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 bam. Like, you had to get your stuff fixed, ready. As soon as I pulled off the track, there was two more heat races, and then started LCQ. And I was the first LCQ. We got in, we found out what it was, drained the bowl, put it back together, got it running. I was getting the bike fired in my pit as they were calling my race out on the track. Got out the track, got the whole shot, led the whole thing. A guy fell off of his bike. The bike was just ghost riding across the track. I thought it was going to come back and take me out. But yeah, I ended up qualifying for X Games. Went to X Games 2019. I had the speed to win it, and there's some things that kind of happened that are still a little sour, but I got bronze medal at X Games, so I was pretty pumped about that. I was like, okay, that's not the worst case scenario, Yeah, and then I did so I guess I'm going to take a step back. When I was out there in Industry Hills, California, the next day after the qualifier was a race with Super Hooligans, which was Rolling Sands, dirt track. It was at Paris, California. And I was like, okay, like, I kind of knew who Roland was. I kind of knew these other guys, but at the same time, not really. And it was one of those short tracks that, like, I love going high-low. I love, they call it pole putting when you're just glued to the inside of the corner. I don't do that. If there's traction up top like there is at the bottom, I'll bury it in there, and I'll try and get the best drive I can. And I found myself in the Dash for Cash, and it was me and Andy DeBrino, and I didn't know who the guy was. He was on a KTM 790 at the time, and he was the person to beat. He had a big old red bullseye on his back pretty much because he was winning everything, and I didn't get a good start. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, I'm going to X Games. Like, I don't want to get hurt, you know. And I come out of turn 2, and I got the speed, and I pass into second going into turn 3, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm right here with Andy, and we battled the whole race, but he was pole putting, and I just couldn't get enough traction to get off the outside of the corner to get past him. But yeah, so I kind of got in with the rolling sand guys then, and so that following winter, I rode a Indian FTR 1200 for S&S and Indian. Just had a couple races, and then I was going to do some more stuff with Rolling Sands. I didn't. Spring of 2020. So before COVID happened, I think we all had plans. I'm sure you had a bunch of plans that got ruined that year. And Mark Butcher, Mark Atkins, sorry. Rusty Butcher. He's kind of a Harley. He's a Sportster guy. He does a lot of off-the-wall stuff on Sportsters, things that they're not supposed to do. He talked a bunch of us into doing the Mint 400 on Sportsters. And we did a full-on off-road desert race on Sportsters. I built a Sportster, and it was cool. It was neat. Ended up falling over in a low-speed situation, snapped the handlebar off. There's like a crossroad that I had crossed that I knew it wasn't like a good path through the desert, but I'm like, okay, well, I've got one handlebar and I'm literally holding on to it. Like, I don't have anything really here to demonstrate, but the throttle and everything's still on the bar, like on the top mount. And then the other handlebar that had the clutch was just like, it was broke completely off. So I'm holding it like this, holding the clutch, and I'm just holding it on my thigh. And I had to go backwards through the desert, like 5 miles to get to this road. Get on this road, and I'm doing like 65 down the road. And my brother-in-law, because they can live track you and see everything. And luckily, I grabbed my phone. So when I did come to a stop, I was like, okay, the map's not loading, but I see my fiance's location is over this way. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well, that's over that mountain. I don't want to go over it with one handlebar, so I'm going to go around it. And when I finally got met up with them or whatever, they're like, yeah, it said you were going 0, and then all of a sudden you're going 65. I'm like, well, yeah, I was trying to get back to you guys. Like, I know I don't have anything to fix the bike, but he's like, you're going 65 with one handlebar? I was like, yeah, I guess, it's just riding pretty much. And but yeah, so that was neat. COVID happened. I was planning on doing more of the Super Hooligan stuff. That was the first year that they were going to do. That was the first year I think they were going to do the road race that year. Or no, sorry, 2021 was the year that they did the road race. So they did a flat track, 4 rounds of flat track, and then 1 round of road race. And I wanted to do some of the Super Hooligan rounds, and I'd never road raced before. 2021, I ended up chasing the Grand National Hooligan Championship. Jeremy DeReuter, he put that on. It was Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. The season finale was in Florida at Pensacola. Robbie McClendon, I don't know if you know him. He put that whole Clash of the Clan on down there, or Clash of the Panhandle. Great group of people. I won that year. I won 8 of the 13 races, and I think all 13 it was on the podium. I did really well with it. I enjoyed it. So turning into 22, I guess through the winter, we found out that Roland was going to do a full-fledged road race Super Hooligan. I'm like, okay. I'd never road raced in my life. I'd done some supermoto, but nothing crazy because there's not really much supermoto around. So I bought a KTM 890. It was completely bone stock. I actually just sold it to Arnie Wells. He's out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. I think he's going to try and do some Moto America rounds next year on the Super Hooligan. But I bought that 890. I went. It was beginning of March. Or no, sorry, not beginning of March. Because I'm in Daytona. It was beginning of February. And I got in contact with CJ Cohen with Legacy Track Days. And I went down there and did a track day with CCS, which it was a race weekend. So I'm like, okay, we're going to just go for it, I guess. You know, I had Q4 tires, Dunlop Q4s on. Didn't know much about road race. Like, I know how to go fast. I'm not scared of you know, the speed or anything like that. But I get down there, and he's like, all right, we're going to do practice. I want to make sure that you know how to ride a bike pretty much and, you know, what you're doing. And we do a couple laps, and then he gets behind me. He's like, okay. He's like, I can see that you know how to figure out the race line. Like, you're learning. There are mistakes you're making because you've never road raced before, but there are, you know, you're learning. You're doing good. By the end of the weekend, he was very, very impressed. I got bumped to expert license right away so I could go straight into Moto America. I think it was like 3 weeks later, and I did Daytona. So I went from never road racing to one track day, which was a CCS race. And it was funny because the first day I didn't know how many classes I could sign up for. So I'm like, okay, I just signed up for one class. And then he told me that day, he goes, you can sign up for more classes tomorrow. I was like, okay. So that second day, the first race, my practice was cut short because of lightning in the area. And I think Florida, there's a 95% chance of rain, that it's going to rain everywhere in Florida at any given point. So we got cut short, lightning in the area. It started downpouring. And Dad's kind of sitting there, and he's like, it doesn't look like you're going to be racing anytime soon. And it'd been like an hour, and then it just stops lightning. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I've never raced in the rain. You know, I mean, racing flat track, you don't race in the rain. I'm the first race up, and it's a 25-minute sprint, and it's still just downpouring. And I'm like, okay, I'm on Q4s. I'm not even on rain tires. And surprisingly, it worked. I ran a faster lap time in the rain on Q4s than I did the day prior on the dry. And then the track got drier as the day went on, obviously. In my second race, I ran even faster than the rain. But I was pretty pumped. And then I got my Moto America license, went into Daytona, and after I met Andy DeBrino, I became really good friends with him. And I was kind of asking him some pointers about Daytona. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, I think my goal is to qualify top 10. And he's like, well, because I get that it is Super Hooligan, but everybody that is racing Super Hooligan, they've road raced to some level for multiple years. Like, this is going to be your second time ever on a road track and your first ever professional road race. He's like, if you qualify in the top 10, I'd be very surprised. He goes, but don't get your hopes up. Like, if it doesn't happen, don't get your feelings hurt. I qualified 11th. So I'm like, I was a little bummed because I was like, okay, I had a personal goal. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I know this might be out there, but I'm going to set the goal. I'm going to do it. Like, I've already kind of set the goals to get to where I was. And I've, kind of like what Charles was saying kind of yesterday, like if you believe it, if you can do it, if you believe it, if you just believe, so I was a little disappointed, but I was pumped at the same time. I think the first couple laps, just getting on that embankment, my head was locked up, and I'm like looking under my eyebrows, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. It's like it's one of those feelings of your equilibrium's getting thrown off. It's not normal. I mean, it's one thing to do 140 through a corner and be up on the bike and just kind of have to look over with your head to look through the corner, but you're hanging under the bike dang near, face on the bars, and then you're looking all the way up, and it's like, that's different. Or, just road racing in general is way different than flat track. Like I said, 140 up on top of the bike or 140 hanging off the inside. It's a different learning curve. So we get to race one. I didn't get a bad start, but I go into the first corner and I'm like panicking a little bit, and I just revert back to factory settings, and I go and I start to put my foot down. I'm like, what am I doing? This is not what you do on road race. I was trying. I was going for it. I seen the grass and I was like, there's some dirt in there. I know it. But no, I ended up ninth. that race, and I was pumped. So I broke top 10. The second day rained out because it was supposed to be a doubleheader at Daytona. Second day it rained out. They didn't know when they were going to put us back in because we were supposed to have 4 races that season. We went to Road Atlanta next. Still hadn't touched the bike again. Just went there, learned. I was talking to Andy again. He's like, well, he goes, the S's are going to give you a hard time. That was probably my favorite part on the track. I enjoyed just throwing the bike back and forth. I grew up, like I said, I grew up racing flat track, but I never really practiced and rode flat track. I always rode motocross. So I don't mind getting uncomfortable on the bike. But the S's, it felt really good. And I was out braking people. That's, I'll run in the corner deep. Like if you give me a corner, I'm going to try and outbrake you. Yeah, I might not all the time, but I'll try, But yeah, and that's so I ended up with a pair of 8s there, and then went to Laguna. I had one track day in between at Blackhawk Farms. Did a track day there, and then did Laguna, and I got 8th there as well. I started 8th. I was trying to get further up the grid. I didn't get a very good start. It fell on its face for the first 60 feet, and I remember when I got back into the pits or whatever, my fiance, she was talking to me. She's like, yeah, she goes, I counted you at 16th when you came around turn 3 or 4. She goes, what happened? I told her. I caught all the way back up to 8th. Patricia was riding for, I believe it was Lloyd's at the time.
Yeah.
And, man, that thing, those FTRs have some motors on them. I do know that. I passed her, and it was the coolest thing ever. And I wish there was a video of it, but I didn't think I was going to pass her until further down further through the track, because I seen her crossing the finish line as I was coming through. And I think she got to the point where she was kind of just worn out and exhausted. And I crest the hill over 1, and I see her right there. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just on the gas. And next thing I'm backing it in, going into the corner. And in my mind, I'm like, this is probably the coolest looking thing that anybody's ever seen for a while. I was just full on flat track backing it in, and then just leaned over and went. Well, about that time, she got her stuff back together going up the hill and just motored past me before the corkscrew. And I did everything I could, and I couldn't stay with her to cross the finish line. And that was it. So I ended up 7th overall, my first ever professional season. Like I said, I'd done Daytona, Atlanta, Laguna, and a track day. And then I was really fixated. So going into last year, I was really fixated on the bagger stuff. I think it's neat. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think they've kind of hit the ceiling and then just kept blowing through the ceiling. So it's not obtainable, kind of like Charlie said last night. It's not obtainable for the everyday Joe Schmo that's going to try and go race baggers. I was on the DTF performance bike that Michael Barnes raced, and that's the one that I bought that last year. Never raced it before in my life. I did, thank the Lord, there was a track day it was a tire test day for Dunlop at Road America after they had repaved it. So I went up there, and it was raining in the morning, of course. So I'm like, okay, well, this is great. And I remember Tyler O'Hare, it had stopped raining, and the track was starting to get dry, but I had reins on. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to just go out there and trash the bike. Obviously, I'd never ridden it before. I'm still trying to figure it out. It was supposed to be race ready when I got it. There was some stuff that wasn't. I couldn't even read it. Like, my aim wasn't linked to the bike, so it wasn't reading the tack. It wasn't reading anything, what gear you're in. So it was a lot of just not being prepared to ride it. I was supposed to race Atlanta prior to that, and I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get it done in time. So yeah, that test day, I remember O'Hara, he passed me, and he kind of just like he looked back and he motioned and he's like tapping his fender and he's like, just follow, and so he stayed at just a cruising pace and just kind of worked me through the track. And it was the coolest thing ever. He is one of the nicest guys, I think. But so I had a lot of confidence and I felt really good about it. And I didn't really know, like at the time, my bike was making 157 horse and 158 torque, which isn't bad at all for a bagger. And I thought in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, this bike was a top 3 contending bike when it was first raced. It should do good. It should be capable of doing similar, we do the first round that I did was Road America a couple weeks later, and I wasn't off the pace. I was still learning the bike, and those things are the neatest ever. I feel like it feels like just a big supermoto bike, big, lazy, just fun. And I think I qualified 11th. Patricia was behind me that round or that race. The first race I stayed in front of her. I think I finished 11th or 12th. And then the second race, I should say, that weekend, she got a better start than I did. And she was able to stay in front of me going through all the tight stuff, where I was out riding her and I would have been staying in front of her. But as soon as she'd roll on the throttle, it was just gone. I'm like, okay, coming down the front stretch, the last corner, I'd get to the point where and I said this a couple times to myself, like, if she misses a gear, I am going to become one with her and her bike. Like, it's not going to be pretty. But as soon as she'd roll that thing on, she'd pull 12, 15 bike links on me. And I'm like, man, I can't compete, And then I found out they're making 175 horse. I'm like, well, I'm down 20 horse. But I was like, you know what? The bike's reliable. We're going to see what we can do with it. And we did Road America. We went to Laguna, did a Laguna. Felt great. Ended up smoking the clutch on the second day. And I noticed it right when we did the practice start on the second race. And I'm like, okay, well, how long is this thing going to last? Ended up finishing the race, which Jake Lewis and Frankie Garcia were both having problems, if I'm not mistaken. And I could see him in front of me. I could see him the whole race. So I'm like, if this clutch was still good, I could have at least gotten in front of those guys too, And I was a little bummed about it, but it happens. It is what it is. And from there, we went to Brainerd, and that's where everything went south in a hurry. We did first practice, and I'm like, okay, the track is great. I like it. I don't mind it. There was a guy that raced that class, and I want to say it was Eric Stahl with Jiffy Tune. He told me at Laguna that place is basically possum hauler to the Moto America rounds. At Brainerd is that way, and I said that on Dustin Coyer's podcast, and he made fun of me about it. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna catch so much flack about calling that place Possum Hauler," and I would say that it kind of is. The track is rough. I mean, obviously, not every track's going to be perfectly repaved and everything. I mean, look at Laguna from last year to this year. Laguna last year was perfectly repaved, and this year it's like them cars tore it up pretty good. So Brainerd, there was a few times when I walked the track. I probably did like 2 laps, 3 laps, but I kept fixating in these spots. Like turn 6 was one of them that really stuck out to me. It was like, I don't know, maybe 2 foot off the paint. It wasn't polished, but it was like the cars had pulled some of that texture away. And I feel like that had a lot to do with what happened where I wrecked. And then especially throughout the whole weekend on my ride home, I kept seeing people wrecking either going into 6 or coming out of 6. I mean, I know you've seen that wreck with Mallory Dobbs where she just went right through people just flipping left and right. It's like, man. I was going through turn 6 and bike just started sliding. So this was first qualifying, and it was raining, and I was riding on Bobby Fong's tail, and I'm like, okay, like we're going pretty good, you know, and in my mind, I'm like, I know we can go a little bit faster. Like I was going a little bit faster with O'Hara when we were at Road America, and you know, I feel like we can move a little bit quicker. And Bobby blew a corner, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. And then next thing you know, here's Frankie Garcia in front of me. He blew another corner. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm going to keep going. And I didn't know where I was, but my screen was saying, like, I'd done like 5 or 6 laps. And my screen on my dash, I finally got my dash to work where it was reading the bike and reading GPS and everything. And it was showing plus. And I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be running a faster lap than whatever I had previously. And I was like, I'll finish this lap and I'll pull in. Well, coming through 6, it starts getting sideways, and I'm like, okay, well, this is not good. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't know if it's going to stop. I don't know if I'm going to save it. About the time where I said, I'm just going to let go of the bike, it shit whipped me so hard. And I've been thrown off of stuff before, but I mean, this thing, as soon as I thought in my mind, I'm going to commit to just letting go of the bike, it hooked and just flung me. Took a digger straight to my collarbone, broke it, had surgery. Oh yeah. And I was so bummed, you know. It's one of those things where I got up and I instantly knew when I got up that I had a broken collarbone. I mean, granted, it was sitting on top of itself, but it was just like the defeat. Like I worked so hard to do what I did, and thing of it is, like, I don't have a crew behind me. I don't have 10 people working to fix the suspension and do this and do that. You know, usually when I show up, it's just me and my dad, and my mom comes with, and my fiance tries to come when she can, but she's usually busy, which not a big deal. But it's like, as far as wrenching and stuff like that, usually it's all on me. So it's like, you take the role of the mechanic, you take the role of learning the track, you take the role of learning the bike, and then it's like there's so many different things, and you feel like you're going so well, and it's like, okay, like I know I'm behind, I know that not all the cards are playing in my favor, but we're going to do what we can with what we've got, make it through the season, and then develop another plan for next year, you know, and get more experience, and then go from there. And that was the plan. And then that happens, and it's like, man, I usually don't get emotional or cry, but I remember sitting there and I was like, I was bummed, I was upset, I was fine. I got my phone and I was like, man, I got to call my fiance and let her know, hey, I got to go to the ER. I've got a broken collarbone. And about that time was when I really started letting loose, and it was like, I was fine up until then, and then it almost felt like guilt, like, you're not here. And I just destroyed my shoulder. Like I don't want to be calling you, making you worry about, you know, is he okay? Is he going to get back all right? You know, or anything like that. Like, I feel like it's one thing if somebody's there and they see it and they're like, okay, you know, like, we can process it. But when you're not and you're by yourself, then it's like, I just felt bad. And I was like, man, I don't want to be the person to call and say that, you know, which I was, but yeah, so that really kind of put a dampener on everything. I went, basically, I could have rode, could have raced probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. I mean, they plated it. Everyone that I talked to, they're like, yeah, motocross guys will go out there 2 weeks later and they'll race. I'm like, well, yeah, motocross guys are getting a big salary too. They don't have to work on Monday, you know? And granted, by the second week, I think I was in here changing street bike tires and Harley tires on the machine, and it's a manual machine. So it's like, I'm just throwing these things around, and I'm like, the one day I got so sore, I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta be done. I gotta go home. But they freed me to do whatever I wanted back in November. And it was about the longest time from Brainerd to November. And I'm like, okay, now it's like, what do I do now? I was kind of set to do more bagger races this year, and that's what I wanted to do. But I realized that I was so far behind the ball last year on a bike that I thought was going to be competitive, which, looking at the times that I ran at Laguna, I was 0.3 seconds off of Barney's times at Laguna when he originally raced the bike with 10 more horsepower. So I'm like, I would have been battling Wyman and Barnes and Taylor Knapp, and I can't remember, there was a couple other guys. I'm like, I would have been battling those guys if I would have originally raced in the class when this bike was built for it, And things have progressed so much that it's not obtainable. So yeah, I kind of played out my ideas, and I decided, I was like, well, I'm gonna do the Super Hooligan stuff. I enjoyed it. Realistically, looking back, I should have stayed with the Super Hooligan last year. I remember the beginning of last year, I thought, well, if I'm not going to do the baggers, what do I want to do something besides the Super Hooligan, because I learned real quick that I really enjoy road race. I've excelled at it pretty well for what I do. This past weekend at Laguna was my 12th ever time on a road race track. And I'm racing, like I said, I'm racing guys that have been road racing since they were in their teenage years, and I'm in front of them or I'm battling with them. And it's like, I've only got 12 times ever on a road race track. I had a kid, Andrew Berkeley. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he rides a KTM and Super Hooligans, and I met him. He's from Kansas City, Missouri, so he's about 4.5 hours from me. But he was talking to me. He's like, yeah, he goes, you always say you've only been on a road race track 12 times. He goes, surely you've done like track days before, haven't you? I'm like, no. I'm like, when I say 12 times, I mean, I've been on a track 12 times, and 10 of them have been all professional Moto America races, and the other one was a test day, and the other one was a track day. I'm like, other than that, it's all been Moto America. I haven't really found the time to go practice and get seat time, in which now it's like, okay, I've got to do something with that, because I know, body English kind of suffering a little bit. I can tell I'm developing some habits that I can be fixed, obviously, because like I said, I've only been on a road race track 12 times. But as far as how well I'm doing, I've really enjoyed the transition to road race, because it is fun. I remember the first time I did it in 22 after Daytona, I literally said, I told everybody, I'm like, if you have a bike that you can go to a track day with, go do the track day. Go get some seat time. Go sign up for a club race. Like, do whatever you can. Like, I wish I would have done it sooner, which I'm only 28, so I can't really say sooner, because look at Mick Williams. Look at any of those guys. They're older,
Shoot, dude, McWilliams is approaching 60.
I know, and he still kills it. He
murders it. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm not really worried about my age. I just wish that I would have had, I wish I'd have more experience. I wish I would have done it sooner when I had the time to do it, more than just the races, Like I said, I grew up with Gillums. I grew up with racing with them. I grew up racing with Jake Lewis, McFadden, Miles Thornton. I think he was a little bit above me. I think I'd just get into the next class, and he'd just be getting into the next class. So I'd be entering as he was leaving. But I remember we were down at Winter Nationals one year, and his dad had I think it was like an RS 125 or something like that. And we were parked right next to him. Miles, this old man, is probably one of the nicest guys that I think, from what I remember, from what that I know of, but he's a real nice guy. And I remember him telling us that, if you ever get a time or a chance, you want to come down and try this, like, come down and try it. And I wish I would have, but being from the Midwest, being in Iowa, there's not really many road race tracks around. There's some club tracks, but like everyone that I grew up with usually just stayed with flat track, with dirt track. The Gillums, they made the transition, but they were down there by, they're down there in Kentucky, so they didn't have. That was where a lot of the road racers typically were from. So it didn't really have a solid friend group that was making the transition that was like, hey, get over here and do this now. I wish that I would have, but yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. So this year I got on with Triumph of Indianapolis. They've been helping me out a little bit. I bought a bike through them, and we've got a race program kind of going on, and it's a Street Triple 765. It's a 2024. It's got some bugs that we've been working out. Nobody's been able to get into the ECU, so I think there's a lot of untapped horsepower there. I know the throttle bodies, the throttle position, it's not opening 100%. I think it's still limited to like 70 some odd percent. So there's a lot of potential there for it to make more power. But with that being said, if the Super Hooligan class keeps going the way that I think quite a few of us are kind of predicting, I think it's going to be obtainable or non-obtainable as well as, like with the baggers is, where they're opening the class up more and letting more bikes in, which I get it. I understand it. More companies want to have more of their race design bikes to be in. I seen a post the other day where someone was like, this is a great idea, but we need to do, it was Eric Dorn from EDR. Mm-hmm. He said, we need to do a middleweight hooligan and a heavyweight hooligan. Do your KTM 1290s, all the big 1200s that are 150 to 180 horse, do that in the heavyweight. And then do the other bikes like the KTM 890s, the Triumph, do that in the middleweight class, But yeah, I don't know. So we did. So this year, I guess with that Triumph, I wasn't planning on racing Daytona with it because I got it 9 days prior to me leaving, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I've got this deal. I don't want to set him down or let him down. Like, I started next day airing parts. I had a slip-on coming. I had a 23 header because their whole exhaust for on the 24s are headers, cat, muffler, and then the silencer is all one piece welded. So you'd have to run the early model 23 or older headers. And I got the race body from S2 Concepts overseas. I didn't know if it was going to show up, and that's why it showed. So it showed up on Monday, and I was leaving Friday. I'm like, okay, well, there's hope. So I'm going to just overnight all the rest of the stuff, get it here. And I go to put the belly pan on with with the stock 23 header, and the cat's hitting. I'm like, okay. So overnighted some headers. So I got a full exhaust, stock suspension. I did do handlebars. I did the zero rise. I think they're like 5-degree pullbacks. Did those. Didn't have rear sets. So it was essentially a stock bike with bars and full exhaust. Took it to Louisville. We were going to try and tune it on the dyno. We couldn't tune it because that's when we found out the ECUs are so locked up. We did get it on the dyno to see what the AFR was, and it actually didn't read bad, but I'm like, okay, it'll be safe enough for a Daytona. Race Daytona, I think I got 13th the first day. Second day, I was ran a little wide going into the chicane, and he probably is listening. Mitch Stein is his name. There was a group of us going, and I'm like, I didn't get a good start. I got passed through the infield, started making passes before the chicane on the backstretch, and there's a group of like 4 of us. And I'm like, okay, well, I go to pass on the outside. I'm like, I'm committed to diving in the outside that's going into the chicane. I got it. It's good. We'll see where it goes, About that time, I see an orange front wheel and orange front fender come up from the other side of the group, but he's so far to the inside that he's like, there's no way that he was going to make that entrance to the chicane. And I just see his bike stand up, and I'm like, okay, we're going to merge here and wind up in the hay bale, and we're going to watch with the flagman if if I stay where I'm going. We both stood it up and went off in the hay bales, and we didn't go down. We didn't wreck. Got back on the track. I couldn't see anybody. And I'm like, me and him are dead last. And we catch up to a couple groups. I ended up 21st. When I came across the finish line, the group of 15 to 20 was pretty close to me. I think I could have probably got them if I had 2 more laps. You know, I felt really good. So it was a 13th and a 21st. And then we just did the Ridge. I'd never been there before. We had electrical gremlins because we tried to do a rapid bike with it. It turned into the first day in qualifying, we're completely fine. The bike stayed running the whole time. Qualifying 2, the bike shut off 3 times, and I had to pull over and turn the key off, turn it back on, and it'd go. Like the gauges and everything were staying on, but the bike was just dying. Didn't know what it was. Couldn't figure it out. The rain race, which, and again, surprisingly, I don't mind the rain. I run pretty well. I think it's one of those things that, granted, I wrecked in the rain on the bagger, but I think it's one of those things like I'm so used to the dirt that until I find that limit, like I'm progressively finding how far I can actually go with it. And the 765 is more of a proper road race bike in my opinion, than what the 890 was. And I feel very comfortable on it, but I was in like a 3-way battle for 7th, and it was Stefano Mesa, Andrew Berkeley, I believe AJ Peasley, and a Don, I believe, was in it too. So it might have been a 4-way, but we're going, and we get to the top of the hill, and right before we go to dive down, and I'm like, okay, I got up next side of Berkeley, and bike dies. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I get it fired up. 4 people go past me, and I'm like, okay, get through the downhill, and I'm going down the front stretch. Bike dies again, going into the first corner off the front stretch, and I'm like, okay, get stopped. Shut it off, turn it back on. Here goes 2 more people. Well, I passed them, and I caught up to, I think I made 3 or 4 passes, and I don't even remember what I got now, but I was a little bummed that the bike died and we were having electrical problems. The second day, so that night, I ripped the whole rapid bike system off. I think it was 13th on the second day. Either way, I ended up getting it running great on the second day. You could tell that it wasn't up to par just because we took all the fuel away that we had with the rapid bike. But so my mom and dad, they had drove out and they trailered down after the race weekend. They went to EDR Performance, and Eric and John did their magic and figured out what was going on. They talked to the guys overseas. Hey, what's going on? Why is this thing dying? Turns out I'm like the 4th or 5th person that they've had do this in a race application with the 2024 RSs. The gear position sensor, if it's plugged in and you're racing with it. So with the rapid bike plugged into the gear position sensor, it'll just make it go haywire, I guess, and then just shut the bike off. So they've left it unhooked, went to Laguna, showed up, did great. It was awesome. It was 10th on the first day at Laguna, 9th on the second day. So real pumped, which Laguna I enjoy. It's I think that's my 3rd year there, so that's a fun place. Now we're on the fence about finding more horsepower or what we want to do. There's 2 rounds left, 4 races, so I guess 4 rounds, 2 weekends. We got Mid-Ohio and we got Coda. And I've looked into doing a full race ECU. For the money, it seems kind of silly to spend on just 4 races, to spend that kind of money, to do it. But I know the potential, if we do it, is it's huge. I know the guys, so like at Laguna, I was the first non-Harley or Indian. I know all those guys are roughly 140 and up for horsepower, and I'm only 126. So it's like, if I'm not there, then I'm already kind of outriding some of the guys that, there's some guys that have more experience than me, that have a little bit more power than me, but I'm learning to ride this bike harder. It's a learning curve because I've never ridden a proper crotch rocket on a track. I'm used to having 85 foot-pounds of torque or more, where this thing's only 50 foot-pounds of torque. So like getting off the corners just feels like you're in slow speed, like turtle mode. It's like, dude, we gotta go, and so it's a learning curve as far as that goes. But I'm learning to trust, to just let go of the brake, run it in deeper, I mean, nobody wants to go down, but I'm kind of learning in my head, like, okay, if there's nobody in front of me and I can just keep pushing, the worst case scenario is you tuck the front and you just slide across the pavement. I mean, obviously there's other scenarios too, but usually that's what's going to happen if you cook it in a little too hard. Yeah, it's just, like I said, I tell people like, oh yeah, I don't really have that much experience. I've only been doing it for 12 races, and my old man, he kind of got a little irritated with me about it because I said that, and he's like, this is your third season. He goes, you've got experience. He goes, you just got to learn more body English and all that. I'm like, I get that, but I technically only did 2 rounds last year, so it's a learning curve. It's, my speed is there. Like Ryan said, you need to learn to ride a slow bike fast before you ride a fast bike fast. I always tell people, and CJ Conan even said this, I'm fast enough to be dangerous, but I don't know why. I don't know why. Like I'm just like I know how to ride a bike well. I do well, but it's just a matter of just learning more proper body English and stuff like that. That seat time essentially is what's going to get you there. So that's kind of my, that's a long story, but that's kind of my race story and where we're at now. I know I've kind of been looking into doing some schooling here and there with some sort of track school. I mean, even if it's not, and I had this discussion with a guy the other day, and he's like, man, he goes, a top 10 finisher doesn't necessarily need to have schooling. He said, you just need to spend more time with your bike on a weekend that you're not running around a million miles an hour, trying to figure out the gearing, trying to figure out this. Okay, well, this is going to work or this is not going to work. Then you got to figure out, the time you're going to be on the track. You got to figure out all that stuff. You got to figure out tire schedule. So he's like, you just need to go somewhere and ride where you're not under all that pressure to just ride, which I think that is definitely true. Being in a race setting can be very stressful, I think, as you know.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to learn a bunch of new things, you're trying to do new things, it's difficult. I mean, I could be in a stressful situation and go to a flat track race, and it is what it is. It's like second nature. It's like, okay, well, you got to take a couple teeth off here, drop some pounds, some air, and you're good to go. Just go out there and grab the throttle. Whereas a road race, it's not that simple. So it's like, you get a lot of head noise, and you can't, if you're not in a headspace where you should be out there, which. And I'm never not that way. Like, I always try to clear my mind. I'm usually the person that, I mean, when I qualified for X Games, I was more fascinated. There was a authentic taco truck right across the parking lot. I was pumped about it. And they're like, you just qualified for X Games. All you care about is some taco. I'm like, yeah. That's some good food,
That's it.
So it's like, I'm usually very zen, very like, I think if you were to come around me at the track, which I do have a tone with my voice where it sounds like I might be irritated, but I'm not. Usually I'm not. But yeah, if you find me at the track, I'm either pumped, I'm smiling, or if it's anything race related where I'm just thinking, like I'm just in my mind just thinking, okay, so I gotta do this, I gotta do that, like, you know. But I've never been one to get, you know, I know some people that they get so jacked up and so antsy, and they're like, it's like, dude, you guys got to calm down. That's why you're going out there and tucking the front or looping out, or, you know, I know kids that do that racing flat track. That's like, man, the nerves. Like I feel like I've got pretty good nerves. I don't really get nervous or anxious or anything like that usually. There's been a few times where I've caught myself where it's okay, you got to breathe, dude. Like I'll hold my breath usually, or I'll just be fixated on what I'm doing when I'm on the track, and it's like, okay, just calm down. You're making a couple mistakes. Breathe, go. You know, I try to be very woo-saw, zen, calm. Like I said, I'm usually more fascinated by the food and the culture around, and I get more worked up about going to getting some food than I do about being on the track, you know. Which is I think it's a good thing. I think it's saved me a ton from, you know, going out and making too big of mistakes or stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, 100%, because you're not so stressed out. You just laid back, you know. It's not bro, this is all I'm gonna say. I got one word. Absolute legend, dude. You're a freaking legend, Kole. You kidding me right now?
Thank you.
You just talked for almost an hour straight. Your story was just I'm thinking to myself that, dude, you belong where you're at. You have the right attitude. You're absolutely devastating fast. You're right. Seat time. You need more seat time. But on top of that, a school would help, right?
Yep.
Because with a somebody behind you doing video, you come back, you watch it, you study it, you can see where you can improve on your body position and on and off throttle, yada yada yada, right? But the most important thing is the seat time, 100%. I don't even know where to begin with this. There's so much. You're just an absolute animal, man. That's exactly what you are. It's I love it. I can't wait to meet you at Mid Ohio. We're gonna have an absolute, man. Me, you, and Charlie together. I can see it right now. It's gonna be it's gonna be a scene, right?
Yeah.
CJ Cohen, big shout out to him. I know he's a good buddy of mine. He's an absolute legend too. Legacy Track Days over there in Florida. I mean, dude, you know, coming from, you know, so Charlie actually has a question for you. I was going to wait till later, but this goes along with basically what you were talking about, right? Like, was the path the same? I mean, you covered it pretty much, but his question, one of them is, was the path to the same in road racing as it was with flat track? I know you grew up and started flat tracking, but I guess what he's getting at is the transition. Did you find it difficult transitioning from flat track to road racing?
I think, like I said, I mean, this kind of reverts back to the body English. Body language, or however you want to say it, just how I ride. I mean, I don't. At first, it was a little difficult to wrap my head around. Okay, I got to drag my knee. I've got to do all that, you know. And I remember Jesse Janish. Do you know Jesse Janish at all?
Mm-hmm.
So he told me, he's like, man, he goes, the first time you drag your knee, he goes, you have to clean your pants out. He goes, it's the coolest feeling ever. He goes, it's awesome. I was laughing. I was like, you know, when I did my track day, I never dragged my knee. I'm like, dude, that's the scariest thing ever. And I did it at Daytona. I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. You know, now it's like, shout out Bison, Robert. I've been using his pads. I love them. They feel great. The Woods, I just got a set of TPUs. I really enjoy those. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I find if I can find a corner where even if it's like I don't need to drag my knee, sometimes I end up just dragging. It's like, you know, I can drag it here. Like, oh, that's cool, you know. And I caught myself with, when I was breaking my Triumph in, when I'd gotten it, there was a few nice days before before we left, I'm like, well, I need to get at least 100 miles on it. So I'm riding around town. I had my helmet and my gloves on, and I came into a corner pretty hot, like on frontage road, and I go to lean over, and I'm like, I could drag my knee here, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing, dude? It's there's still some salt on the road, I'm sure. I have no gear on other than a helmet and gloves. I'm like, why am I trying to drag me on the highway right now or the frontage road? It's like, okay, but I mean, I guess to answer that, it's the crossover from dirt to road race. I wouldn't say is as much the same. There was a lot of things that I feel like I had to learn. There's a lot of things that are similar, you know, like the drafting, the going high speeds. I've learned, you know, there's a lot of guys that like I said, coming from flat track, if I can go past on the outside, I'll pass on the outside going through a corner. Laguna, I did it going into 2 3 times because we had a restart the one time. I did it 3 times. And I'm like, you guys are going, like, in my mind, like if somebody goes to pass me on the outside and I know that I got the inside line, like, you know, I'll get on the throttle a little bit more. I'll lean it over further, and I won't let them, like, I'm going to make them work for it. You know, I'm not going to just advertently move up to block them, but I'll hold my line and I'll try to get through the corner faster than they do. Because, hey, you're probably going to blow the corner. But if I can pass on the outside, I'll pass on the outside. And like I said, I gave Andrew and AJ kind of some crap. I'm like, I passed you guys on the outside of the corner, and I ended up going wide, but I went wide, squared it up, and I had better drive coming out of the corner, and you guys were filling your thumbs on the inside, you know. And so I mean, I think as far as that goes, I think the way that I look at lines, cornering through them, I think it's a little bit easier for me to process, which is like, I don't know if it goes through everybody's mind when they're looking in a corner. It's like, okay, well, I can like see the trajectory of where you're going to go, or similar to where you want to go. Like, I know Mitch Stein, we were riding bicycles around Laguna. He'd never been there before, and I'm trying to explain to him how you want to go through some of these corners. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't really. I'm trying to say what I want to do. I'm trying to show him on this bicycle, but it's like I'm not going fast enough to really show the exact how I would want to do it. But I think some of it translates over. I think a lot of it translates over, but I think the big thing was just the more being on top of the bike, because I coming from flat track, you're used to manhandling and stuff. Yes. So that's where things get, like, if you look at any picture of me, usually I'm bent over. If I'm going through a corner, I'm bent over, but I'm more chest up than anything. And it's like, I don't think it's that bad. I do think that I need to get, I seen a couple pictures on the first day where from Laguna, where I was like, okay, like, I've noticed it before. I'm like, I'm going to try and make some changes here and just try and hold tighter to the tank and be closer, have a lower center of gravity instead of being more chest up, chest out. And it's like, it's hard for me to shake that. And I think that, like I said, that's kind of one of those things that I don't know. That's one of those body English deals that I think that if I went and did track days, or I went and did that, or whatever, where I could be in a non-hostile environment of everything going on the racetrack, I think that I would learn better. And I think I would be able to transition with that. There was another thing I was going to say. I just had a complete brain fart. I had
okay.
McAfee ad just popped up, and it just took my whole process apart.
Damn McAfee!
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
Transitioning. Well, okay, so then here's the other thing. I mean, kind of like what he was asking, as far as like, is it relatable? I feel there's a lot of guys that come from flat track that go to road race that do very well. and I can't quite figure it out as far as like, I know Andy, we were talking in a group at the Ridge, and I think it was Jordan Eubanks who was standing there with us, and Jordan was talking and asking me some questions about road racing. And Andy spoke up. He's like, man, he goes, this kid would just go do track days and practice and do everything. He goes, he would be whooping everybody's ass. Like he'd do really, 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 really well because he's already doing so good with such little experience or such little seat time on a road track. So I mean, that resonated with me. And there's times where it's like, I feel like, man, I feel like I should be doing better than what I'm doing. But then there's other times where it's like, yeah, but you came so far and you put your head down and said, oh, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. Like, I don't think, had I not said back in 22, had I not said like, hey, I want to buy a KTM 890 and go road race. Like I'm going to go get my license. I don't think that I'd be here doing this. And I also don't think that if I would have said, hey, I hold myself at a high standard, I know that it might not be feasible, it might not be possible, but I'm going to qualify top 10. I don't think that would have, I think if I would have been like, oh, yeah, I got my road race license, like, I'm going to go down and road race, like, whatever I get, it's my first race, I think a lot of the self-accountability as far as if I say I'm going to do something to do it, and I've kind of started acting on that more at the track too, as far as just in riding in general. Like there's been times where I've seen the door open. It's like it's completely safe. And I've never been the aggressive rider. I've never taken somebody out. I've never done anything like that. But I've always kind of like, oh, well, I could pass here, but I'll wait till next lap, see if they mess up again or whatever. I've never really just pounced on a situation. If somebody runs wide, I've been like, okay, well, we'll see if they do it again next lap. Now it's like I've kind of been more of, okay, well, he just ran wide. I'm close enough that I can squeeze up in there and he'll see me and know I'm there, and then we'll decide our fate from there, But I think it's just kind of a lot of, standpoint of you got to believe, and I think, as far as transitioning from one sport to another, I think it's, you had Riston Griggs on. I never knew who he was until at the Ridge, his dad was parked next to us, and I was admiring his whole setup, the truck and trailer. And I think we'd like to get a fifth wheel trailer, but I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, he goes, he did a lot of motocross and stuff, and sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's kind of like what it's not like what I did, but it's kind of the same scenario. He explained that he just wanted to try road racing, and now he's road racing. And it's like, I think if you don't have the mentality of you go in and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try this, but if I don't do good, like, it's okay because I've never done it. I think if you say, okay, well, I'm going to try it, but I'm not going to try it. I'm going to do it. I've learned that that's a good mentality to have of, don't say you're going to try it, just say you're going to do it. Yeah. Which there's things that I know my fiance is watching, and she's very health advocate, works out all the time. She's in the gym every day. She's been running. So see, it's been a couple weeks now. She's been running every day. I think she's been doing like 4 miles a day, 5 miles a day. And I'm like, I'm over here. I wake up, roll out of bed. If I don't get breakfast at the house, I'll stop by Casey's. And it's like, I've got more of a body type where it's like, okay, if I apply to working out or stuff, like I'll build muscle and I'll slim up real good, real quick. But I also don't really hold weight either. Like I'm relatively skinny. I'm only 200 pounds, I think. But so that's one of those things where it's like with work. So I do my own business. I do King Performance. I do V-twin parts and accessories, everything from a service to full-blown engine builds, dyno tuning. There's times where it's like halfway through the day, like I'm so busy where it's like, okay, I want to headbutt a nail, like it gets stressful. And it's like sometimes like almost all winter long, I was going to the gym every day, and then work picked up more, and it's like, okay, well, I can't go to the gym, but I've kind of been making the excuse of, oh, I can't go to the gym today, or I'm not going to the gym, and I haven't for a while now, but I think that's also another training program if I stay consistent with that, because it's weird. I do everything else. I don't ride. The only time I ride usually is on the track. I used to ride a lot of motocross. I can't even find the time to go ride motocross, which, it sucks because I do enjoy that and it's a good cross train. So I hold myself very accountable between work and the racetrack, but then when it comes to the gym, I don't hold myself accountable at the gym either, but I don't know. I do need to. And that's what you keep promoting Chef Eats, and I keep seeing that stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's not, I'm very plop it in the microwave, or let me get it off this turnaround heater oven, at the gas station. And so as far as one of those things go, like that's, like I said, I've looked into it, and for the cost of it, for the amount of meals that you get, it kind of makes it a no brainer, like you said, I haven't tried Fresh and Lean. There's been a couple other times that I've seen some other companies that it's like, okay, well, that looks like some nasty stuff. Then there's other times where it's like, I did the Hello Fresh for a little bit.
I did that too.
Yes. And it was like, we enjoyed it. It was a good time. But then it was like, some nights you might not want to fully cook a meal, and then it's like, okay, well, we got a bag of food in there that it's going to go bad if we don't cook it tonight, or we're going to have 5 meals we got to cook on Sunday, which, I mean, granted,
we need to invite friends over to eat all this food we just paid for. We can't freeze.
Like, so it's like the Chef Eats, it looks like, and I did look, it covers my area.
Dude, it's absolutely amazing, Cole. I will. Yeah. I tell you what, when we get off here, I will give you Jeff Shervin's number. You just call him up, tell him I sent you, dude. He'll take care of you. And I'm telling you right now, it's absolutely amazing. I know you hear me say it all the time, and if it wasn't, I wouldn't be. I would not say it as much. It's perfect. It's perfect. I don't do a lot of track days. I wish I had the time to go out there and do a lot more track days, right? But I buy them for my lunch, my dinner, my breakfast, right? If I don't cook at home, I'm like, I got the best meal. I could just throw it in the microwave. Don't even worry about it, right?
Yeah.
And as far as working out, man, like dude, I used to weigh 270 pounds. I was a 40 waist. I'm in a 34 waist. I fluctuate about 205. I'm 5'11", all by changing my diet, doing my breathing exercises, and doing push-ups. That and stretching. That's all I do. I don't run because I got bad knees, and if I do, man, it just absolutely murders me the next day. But I got to a point to where when I'm like you. I got this mentality where I'm like, oh, fuck it, I'm doing it. Nothing's gonna stop me. I'm single vision until I reach my goal. So I went from no working out, being this fat dude, can't even see my toes, much less my wee for how long, right? Let's just be honest. And I went from nothing to 200 push-ups a day for a month.
That's good.
But what happened was I ended up tearing my shoulder muscle away from my bone because I was just Spartan mode, right? And I went to the doctor, and he looks at me, he's like, you're 40 something years old. You can't go that. You got to ease your way into it, right? But as far as your flat track, what you were saying, Cole, man, it's absolutely, I think to me, flat track is probably the best way to train for road racing. Okay. Look at all the past legends, Nicky Hayden, Tommy Hayden, all of them, King Kenny, where'd they come from? Flat track. But what the Haydens did, and a lot of the others, is they would flat track and do the road racing, right? Like mini road racing. So they were doing both things at one time. But you, legend in flat track, only 12 races in, already a freaking legend at road racing, right?
Thank you.
I really believe that being out of that stressful environment, right? Where you're full Spartan mode, right? Preparing for battle, but it's just you, your mom, and a lot of people don't realize, Cole, how much what it takes when you show up to the track with not a proper team. It's you, it's a family team, right? So you got hot pit, cold pit, tire warmers, generators, gas, dude, the whole nine, right? And on top of that, you got to work on the bike, and then you got to try to figure out better body positioning, on and off throttle, and trail braking, and taking all that in. If you were more seat time, basically, what we said, right? It's in order to stay bike fit, you got to ride a bike. There's no gym workout you can do that replicates the G forces, the body movements, the thighs, the core, the everything that road racing is a lot of footwork. It's a lot of pressure inside, outside of the foot pegs. It's not, you guys with no front brakes, you get in there, put it in the corner, and you just
put it on the cases, and then you're
and just burning it on through the whole thing. It's but transitioning to road racing, all that flat track you've done growing up, transitioning to now, you're ahead of the game for a lot of people. As far as I understand what the front tire's doing, I understand what the rear tire's doing, right? People that don't know how to slide a bike at 130 fucking miles an hour, right, with no front brake, it takes us a lot longer to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Because I've seen it before. I know you have, when people are on they road race their whole lives, but that's all they do, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Don't get me wrong. I wish that I could say the same. But I've seen people where they get uneasy on the track, and it's like, okay, they don't know how to ride uncomfortable. They're not able to trust, okay, well, the tire's sliding, or even like in rain situations, like I said, I know that, I haven't pushed the limit that far yet on the Triumph. But I know that, well, I guess I technically did at Laguna, coming out of the corner out of 3 or out of 2 off the start. Tried some different gearing, and I'm like, I got to get something to get me out of this corner a little bit quicker, So I added a couple teeth, and I'm rolling on the throttle, and AJ Peasley, he did the same thing. He went down, dove the inside of me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm coming around the outside, and you could see it in the video on the race too. And I pass on the outside, square it up, and there's that patch because they just added all that new patching through there. And I'm rolling on the throttle, and that thing, as soon as it hit the power band, I was right on the tail end of that patch, and it just gets sideways on me and chucks me up on the tank, and I land back on the seat, and I'm like, okay, I'm about high-sided myself right there, and I was able to stay in front of them the whole race. But I got off, and I come back in, and I could see there's leather tracks from the zipper of the crotch of my pants, and you could see the marks of leather, and then there's some other marks on the tank. I'm like, yeah, I about went for a ride and collected his bolts, and it made him miss a shift. And but yeah, I think with the dirt, the feeling of sliding around, and so if the bike gets upset or gets uncomfortable, usually I don't have a problem with it.
Because of that experience of flat track, right? Because in flat track, you're right. It's you got to learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, especially with the bikes, and whether the front end's floating, right? You can't immediately be like, oh shit, roll off the throttle, because if you do that, guess what? You're definitely gonna hit the deck 100%. Same thing as the rear. You start feeling the rear stepping aside, you just stay into it, right? Because if you let off, you're gonna go to the moon, or turn around, and you're going to crash, basically, is what I'm saying. So there's a lot to be said to that. It's obviously, I've watched road racing all the time, so yeah, I've watched your past 2 seasons and your progression. It's been definitely absolutely amazing, Cole. Again, that's
Yeah.
the only word I can say is legend. You're a fucking legend, dude. For real. It's like,
I hate to like when I do tell people, and I've said
like
this.
Nick says right
Yeah,
here, savage
yeah,
as fuck,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's one. That's one of my buddies from high school. He was in high school, and if he's still watching, he'll probably be mad. But he was a scrawny little dude in high school. Got kind of got picked on or whatever. But he started lifting, started working out. He made some changes. I know later on that he's a trainer and a coach. He lives out in Colorado. And man, dude, that guy, he works his ass off. I do know that. He'll send me Snapchats. He's up at 3. He goes to work at 5 a.m. He's up at 3 a.m. He goes and runs a mile or 2 miles or however many, gets back to his house, goes to work. He's like, before I'm going to go work on myself, or before I'm going to go to work for somebody else, I'm going to work on myself. And that's a very good mentality to have.
It is.
Yeah, like I said, I know I don't hold myself accountable all the times outside of racing and work. But yeah, I mean that is one of those things, and I've kind of noticed that too. So it's like I don't go to the gym all the time, but I'm like, well, there's stuff here that I can do. On the other side of this wall, there's a loft in the shop that it's got steel I-beams, and I've been going up. I've got it to where I can reach up and grab them. And you can only get about the tips of your fingers on each side of the beam, and I crank out about 20 pull-ups like that. I mean, it's all finger strength, but I mean, you're also doing real tight pull-ups, so it works your chest and your shoulders. But I usually try to do 20 right off the rip, and then throughout the day, if I get bored or I'm waiting on a call or I'm waiting on parts to show up for somebody's bike, I try to do another 20, which usually you get pretty fatigued with that close a grip and just being on the tips of your fingers, But yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's good. Nick, dude, you're absolute beast. Cause I get up at 4:00 in the morning. I got to be at work at 6, but I get up, I do my breathing exercises. I'll knock out 50 to 100 push-ups. I do my stretches, do my coffee, get my mind right. It's just what works. You got to figure out what works best for you, right? It's like this is what I tell people too when I tell them about my weight loss is people need to listen to your body, what your body is telling you. Meaning that, let's say, Cole, you go out and you eat a bean burrito from somewhere, but after you eat it, you notice your nose is stopped up, or there was something in there that your body's not agreeing with. Now you got to figure out what that was and stay away from that, right? Because your body's having this certain reaction to it.
Yeah.
So just listen to what your body's telling you. And I think it's a good discipline to get up early and get yourself prepared for battle, right? But nobody wants to work out every day. I that's one of my gripes, is not my gripes, but one thing about me that if I can have a lazy day, I'm gonna take that lazy day. No bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take it because I'm go
Yeah.
nonstop. So if I get a chance to do it, I procrastinate. I'm like, you know what? I'll just do 200 push-ups tomorrow, or 100 push-ups, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we actually have Dutch Ryan says, tell us about the $100,000 cheater bike.
Oh, so everyone was really mad about this KTM. So Andy DeBrino had one of these 790s he was the first one. Savage Custom out of Washington, Tacoma, Washington, I believe. They built Andy DeBrino one of these 790s, and that was the bike that nobody could beat him on. And I was close to beating him on my Sportster, and I know Joe Kopp gave him a run for his money a few times on a Triumph, and so I ended up building one, and that was a lot of people in our area. So when I won that season there, I was on that bike, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a cheater bike," blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, I get why you're mad about it. I understand, but at the same time, I don't know how many tracks out of it. So, like I said, I won 8 of the 13 races of that season with it. Out of those 8 that I won, there was quite a few that I didn't even know if I was going to be on the podium, because like the day just started off like crap. Like that bike handles a lot better than this bike, this Sportster, because this thing is a long wheelbase. This thing's a short wheelbase. It's 95 horse. This thing is usually, some of them are anywhere from 80 to 100 horse, depending on who's got a built motor and who doesn't, or what all they've got done. But the torque a V-twin puts down is so much more than an inline twin, parallel twin. There was times where it's like I'm at short tracks and I think in my head, I'm like, I'm going to do good, because it's a nice short track. I'm going to get out of the corners great. Nope. As soon as I get on the throttle, it just spins the tire right up. And these carb bikes, the carb Sportsters, and they make so much torque, like I said, they put the power to the ground and they go. And people were mad for a while. And they're like, oh, you got a cheater bike. And a lot of people tried saying that it was $100,000 or $80,000. It's like, I think we had more money in that Sportster than we did in that KTM 790 by the time everything was said and done. It's like, you guys could build the same. There's a couple guys got MT-07s that they did the Super Hooligan or Hooligan flat track bikes with. That is essentially the same thing as that 790. But I don't think the proper riders were on them. If I would have rode that, or somebody else would have rode it. I mean, there's a lot of guys that, the other thing people were mad about was that I had a pro license. I'm like, well, Joe Kopp's been racing some of these races. It's like, he's an ex-national number. How many races did he ever won? So I mean, there's some of the people in that class, like I shouldn't say some, there's quite a few that are ex-pros, ex-national numbers. I mean, shoot, Morgan Mishler raced one at a half mile one year. But what the rules say, you can't be a standing professional rider and be in the top 10 and go ride the Grand National Hooligan flat track stuff. And I've also seen a lot of kids that they do race pro flat track, and they're damn good on a 450, but they hop on a big heavy bike and it's like they lose their marbles and they can't figure out how to steer it, and they can't figure out how to manhandle it around. Where I think that's why I like the bagger so much, is because I don't mind being in an awkward body position or wrestling something big around on the track. So I think that's where, like, just being uncomfortable on the bike, I think that's what really kind of resonates with me as far as that goes. People call it $100,000 cheater bike. It's like, no, I maybe got 18.5 in it, and it's like, which again, that's a lot to go race a dirt track, but and that's the other thing of road race. I've kind of had the discussion of, when the time comes that I have children, like what avenue would I like to see them go down? Well, AFT, or whatever it will be called at that time. I know it's gone through a couple name changes since I've raced it. I guess it was just AMA Pro, and then it's gone to AFT now. I don't see a very good return in investment there. I think, look at JD Beach. I'm glad that he's back road racing. I know there were some stories that I'd heard with Essenson, and they're great people. The whole team is, everyone that works there for them, they're all great people. They all do great things. So I don't want people to think that I'm bad mouthing them by any means, but I know JD, for whatever reason, wasn't having the best season for dirt, and he got back into road racing. And I think, there's a lot more. You can spend a lot more money in road racing, yes, but I think the return is huge. It's one of those deals where you go buy a R6 or whatever. Your neighbor's got an R6 that he wrecked, and he's like, okay, well, it's got you got to throw some different stuff on it. Go hit a track day. It's race ready pretty much. I mean, entry level race ready.
Yeah.
But and then same with motocross. Motocross, you can buy a bike off the showroom floor and go race it. Flat track, you got to spend right off the get-go if you buy a brand new bike. Brand new 450 nowadays is what, 12, 13 grand or something like that. 10 to 12. So then you're going to spend another 1,900 on suspension, another 2 grand on wheels, depending on what wheels you go with. And that's just to get the bike set up to go race. And then you don't know if you're going to like it if you've never raced flat track before. So it's like road race. I mean, they're all expensive in their own, I think. I mean, obviously the big thing for road races is tires. Good Lord, you know, I mean, that's one of those things. Like if somebody could figure out a way to like get a tire sponsor or whatever, if you could get a tire sponsor for a weekend or a couple weekends, I think that'd take a lot of stress off of a lot of people's shoulders. You know, I mean, 406 a set. I usually only try to limit myself to one front for the whole weekend and maybe 3 rears. You know, that's where I try to stay at, and usually it goes pretty well. But I mean, I can see people where they go through tires pretty quick. You know, I think we're allowed 12 sets.
Yeah.
So I mean that adds up pretty quick.
Especially when you're got to buy the Dunlop only spec tires at $450 a pop for a set.
They bumped the price, so it's not 406, it's 450 something. 450.
I know this is one of my issues with where I think Moto America can absolutely do better, right? If you got racers that come in that spend, let's just be honest, it is expensive, like you said, especially let's say somebody from Florida, Virginia, we got to go to the Ridge. Dude, that's all the way across the United States, even any race. It don't matter what it is. I think racers, they should put a cap on the price that the racers have to pay, maybe $200, $250, whatever, right? 100 front, 125 rear, whatever. It would keep the cost down. Dunlop's already making a shit ton of money. They signed a contract with Moto America. They make their money.
Yeah,
110%.
Or if they could do just like a points deal.
Yeah.
You get X amount of, if you do so well, or if you travel so many miles, you get allowed, okay, well, they're going to say, hey, you know, you drove X amount of miles to get here. Here's 2 sets of tires. Or, hey, you placed 9th last weekend. Here's a set of tires, you know? Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know how that would work or how that could be figured out, but I think, you know, I think that would solve some, I wouldn't say solve some issues, but I think that'd make it more appealing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would also love to see other tire manufacturers in there, not just Dunlop. Bring Michelin back, bring Bridgestone, bring Pirellis, you know, make it a full-fledged tire war. I think that would factor in too and help Dunlop kind of lower the prices, right? Because other manufacturers come in. I know if I was a manufacturer, I wanted to be in Moto America. I'd put out a contract and I'd be like, look, X amount, this is what you get. Something like you said, have some type of a point set. There's always good ways to improve our sport, right? Which our sport's a beautiful thing. It definitely needs to be worked on. As anything in life, right? But this guy right here, he has Bryson, sorry, he says you should ask Kole about his mini moto supermoto days in Springfield.
So his dad, Mitch Stein, that's the guy who ran me wide at Daytona. Mitch is.
Yes,
and they're the nicest family ever. Mitch, Deanna. I'm probably butchering that. I'm always terrible with that. I don't know what it is about that name, but I'll read it, I'll see it. It's like, okay, well, we'll get it figured out. But anyways, no. So I mean, they're the nicest people, and like, I guess, sorry, this takes it back to the Ridge. I mean, I already knew them. I didn't really, it was funny how it played out because, like, I knew Bryson, I knew Mitch. Like, I'd been friends with them on Facebook forever. But I didn't really, like, I just knew that they added me. Like, we were, you know, I had mutual friends. We all liked motorcycles. It's cool, you know. And I was talking to Mitch down at Daytona, and he's like, hey, he goes, you didn't race Springfield Supermoto, did you? So Springfield weekend, you would race as an amateur. You would race Friday night. Every Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend, it was either TT in the spring and short track in the fall. So you'd race Friday night. Saturday, they would have the pro race, which when we started going to the Supermoto deal, Land of Lincoln Supermoto, we would go down. We would skip the whole pro race that we wouldn't watch the national. We'd go race Friday, go do Supermoto Saturday, and then we'd go to Neoga, Illinois, down by Mattoon, which is where Dallas Daniels is from. And we'd race Neoga on Sunday and Monday. So it was a full-fledged weekend. I mean, you were worn out by the end of it, but usually if you did pretty good, you'd come away with some coin, you know, and once you got in the bigger classes. But I didn't realize it, but his dad promoted the Land of Lincoln Supermoto stuff. And he was telling me that at Daytona. He's like, I used to watch you when you're about yay tall to a grasshopper, running around beating everybody on your 65 doing Supermoto. I'm like, yeah, Land of Lincoln. I'm like, okay, well, you know, how do you know about that? He's like, well, I promoted it. I'm like, oh, okay, like no shit. And so we talked about that, and yeah, that they're such a great group of people. Like I said, at the Ridge, I knew them. I knew Mitch, Indiana, and Bryson, and then I met Andrew Berkeley. Kayla, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She did some BTR. She did the road race. Then she does sidecar racing, which I think is nuts. Andrew did a lot of Supermoto. He's done some sidecar stuff. She wrenches for Andrew, or is the main chief for him. They were traveling with Paul Canal. He rides a BMW with Nate Kearns. And Paul's just this, he's very aloof, very quiet, you know, like he doesn't have any facial, like he doesn't say much, do much. So it's like, he's got a very dry sense of humor. And it's like, okay, like he was telling us a joke at the Ridge. We all went to like a family dinner type deal, and we're sitting there and he's talking, and we're like, okay, like we're just thinking that he's talking to us, and then he hits us with a punchline, and we're like, where did that come from? You know? But yeah, just great group of people. I think, and I don't know how it is throughout the rest of the paddock. I know I experienced a lot of it last year with the bagger stuff. I feel like everyone was real receptive, and they wanted you to be there, especially with the bagger stuff. But as far as everybody goes, like everybody that I've come across with the baggers or the super hooligan, super down to earth. I don't think I've met one person that I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I don't really like your attitude, or you know, I haven't really met many people yet. But I also don't, you know, I usually find a relative clique, or not clique, but relative group, and stay with them, or you know, I don't really venture out too far. But yeah, I mean, everybody that I've run into, they're super nice, down to earth, and it's definitely cool.
It is, and I got so you know my buddy Jordan Eubanks. You obviously you race against him, and then my other good buddy Max Flinders. He races in the bagger and in the super bikes. He's
a nice dude, real nice kid.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. So Tracy Jones says, "Hi Cole King. I wanted to call you King Cole. That's what I should call you, is King Cole."
I've heard that. I've heard that a lot. Old Nat King Cole, old King Cole.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people that think my first name, because usually when you see an ID, it says your last name first, and, you know, whatever. Or anytime you go to make an account somewhere, like I go to O'Reilly's all the time, and it's like, it says my last name first. So, but they think that that's my first name, so they just call me King. They're like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool name. I'm like, it's not my name, but it's my last name. But okay. Tracy, he raced four-wheelers. He did. Remember Monster Jam when they ran the four-wheelers at Monster Jams?
Yeah.
He did that. He did some flat track. He did do a lot of the Supermoto at the Land of Lincoln, so that's how I know him as well. He's good dude, real good dude.
Dude, that's absolutely awesome. And then Shelby says, riding tomorrow, Cole.
So that is my buddy Taylor Powell, his wife. Taylor bought one of my old, he bought my old Road King. Nice. And I tell him all the time, like I was building it. It was an 06. It had a new a new front end, updated front end. So I had a 22 Road Glide front end on it, just the suspension and wheel, and it rode so smooth. I got it freshly repainted. I was just getting it back together. The paint was actually off getting painted. And he's like, hey, he goes, do you want to sell that? I'm like, not really, you know. I haven't even got it back together to enjoy it. It's been tore apart for the last 3 years, you know, and it was one of those ADHD pipe dreams. I think I wanted to. I got into airbrushing a little bit. And I wasn't bad at it, but I was like, I got fixated on doing it. I did it on some pieces that were, you know, not really important or whatever. A lot of like the old lowrider, like the fish scale airbrush and stuff like that, and it looked real cool. But then I never did it on that bike for an actual full paint job, and I was on to the next thing or whatever. And yeah, so it'd been sitting forever, and I finally go to get it done, and he told me, he's like, well, I'll buy it from you. And I'm like, okay, I guess, you know. And I got it all buttoned up, and I rode it down the road and turned around, came back, and I'm like, well, it's all yours, dude. And I was like, as soon as he left, I was like, man, why did I sell that? You know, it's such a nice bike, and it is a nice. I ended up we did a solid black paint job. Very sharp bike.
That's awesome. Love it, man. We've all had those bikes sitting around. We got pipe dreams. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've had many project bikes like that, and yeah, same thing. You want to sell it, and then once it's together, you brought it, and you're like, "Fuck, why'd I do that? Why did I let that?" I consider my view on motorcycles. They're all beautiful women. Everybody's got their own. Every female. So you buy. They're like girlfriends and wives, right? You get this bike, you love her to death, you know, all quirks and nuances, and then you get another bike, and now you got to learn all her nuances and what she likes and what she don't like, even though you're missing your old girl, right? And once you finally get it together, you go on like that last date again, right? You come back and you see her leave, you're heartbroken, and you always think about her. I'm sure you still do, right?
Oh yeah. There's I've got a couple customers that I've spent some time with their bikes, just, you know, building full-blown motors on them, and I did a turbo road glide for a buddy of mine, and he's brought it down here. I did wheels for him, and it's like every time I see it leave, I'm like a little heartbroken, or I'll get Snapchat videos of him out there beating the crap out of it. It's like, and don't hurt it too bad. That's my girl, you know. And it's not even, I never even owned the bike. It's just, you know, it's one of those things like, man, I spend so much time with it, you know, working on it. And then it's like, man, okay, well.
It's like you become intimate with her. That's exactly what it is, working on them, you know. So
you grow a relationship with them.
You do. You really do. And people look at me when I say that, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, dude, you just don't get it, right? You just don't understand, I guess. So it's Ryan says, will you be racing the Bob Walters next weekend?
So that's Galesburg, Illinois. Short track. They got a Bob Walter Memorial race on Saturday. I usually never miss it. I think I've only missed it twice. It's like I said, it's a short track that you can go high, low, you can pass wherever you want to run in the corner and lay your bike down on your bars, and I mean, you could throw it down as far as you can and pick it back up and go. I won't make it. I basically don't have a 450 anymore for flat track. I've got my framer, but it is not the bike that you want to run there. It's for basically dry slick track. Every year that I take it there, I always take my 790 or the Sportster, and I end up riding this 790 or whatever in the amateur class, like in the open singles or open pro-am class or whatever, and I just park the framer. I'm like, every time I'm like, this thing is not fun to ride. It doesn't work well there. I got an 06 Honda 450 that's upstairs that needs suspension bad. And that's what I would race there. But yeah, I won't. So Peoria TT is Sunday also, and no. So long story short, I won't make it to Galesburg. I'm bummed about it. But I think there's a bar or a restaurant called the Pink. It's just a giant pink building. They call it the Pink. They do all you can eat catfish on Saturdays, and I've been saying for I don't know how long that I'm going to go back over there and do it. And so I think we're all going to ride over Saturday, get some catfish, ride home, and then Sunday go over to Peoria TT and watch the races and call it a weekend. I think it's one of those times where, like I said, I focus a lot on work and a lot on racing. I come in Monday through Sunday. Usually Sundays I try to clean up, but I end up working on Sundays. I'll be moving stuff around. I'm like, oh well, I can put this on real quick. And I can do that. Next thing I know, I'm doing dyno runs at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm supposed to be cleaning. It's like, okay, so I don't really ever give myself a break between work and racing, and I try to, there's, like you said, there are days where I wake up and I'm like, I'm lazy, or I don't really want to start my morning early, which I don't anyways. I'm always here at 9:00, but I'm here from 9, so I run from 9 to 6:30 because usually people are getting off work at 5:30. They can't make it to the dealership by 5:30, or they can't, they've got to hustle. So it's like, I'm here till 6:30. And even at that, there's been multiple times where it's like, hey, I'm an hour and a half out. Like, can you stay? It's like, yeah, I got plenty of stuff I can do. Like, there's times where I say that I'm here till 6:30. I'm here till 9 usually. Drives my old lady nuts. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna go enjoy some catfish on Saturday, I think.
Listen, I tell everybody, I got a lot of friends at road race. I'm like, dude, you got to disconnect sometimes.
Yes,
you got to. It's
yes.
very important mentally, because road racing, and I'm sure flat track's same, such a mental game, right?
Yep.
It's good to sit back. Yeah, you can still ride, right? But take all that pressure off. Go out with your friends, have fun, go eat at a restaurant,
Yep.
go enjoy that beer with your friends, go have that
Yep.
conversation, go sit down and watch Netflix and chill, right? It does you good. It does your brain good, does your body good. You hit that reset button.
Yep.
Hit it, and wake up the next day and get at, because I'm the same way, Cole. I get all wrapped up in doing this whole podcast thing, working full time. I get excited when I ask somebody to be on the podcast. They say, yeah, we exchange numbers. We're on the phone. Me and you, we're on the phone 55 minutes. Time goes by like this, right? My wife, I done totally forgot. I got to do something with my wife. And I'm late, My wife texts me, or she's standing in their corner. She's like, yeah, you already know, right? It's hard to find that disconnect, right?
We were supposed to go. Actually, we were supposed to go get catfish tonight, and like I said, it was one of those things where I spaced off last night. I'm like, we can go get catfish tonight. Ride to Harley's over to get catfish, and this morning, halfway through the dyno session with this kid this morning, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, shoot, I got a podcast I got to do tonight. I can't go get catfish, which I don't mind at all. I enjoy this, so
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
dude. Look, we're almost 2 hours into this, and it feels like we just started. I love it, man.
I know.
I love doing this. I love sitting down, getting everybody's story out there. And at the end of the day, more important, I love the friendship that we build while we're doing this. And then we see each other in real life. It's like this full circle deal, right? Come together. And I was sitting here thinking what you had asked me earlier, but before we went live, I actually do have one shirt left that somebody was supposed to get, that they never ended up getting it, because I was racking my brain. I was like, I do. It's a large, right? So I wear a large. I assume
I can wear a large.
Yeah, okay, but so
I wear large or extra large. I think baggy fits are back in, but I usually wear a large.
Yeah. Well, these run big, so it's so I'll get your address. I'll stick it in the mail. Blah blah blah. But yeah, it's your whole journey, man, and what you have achieved. Not just flat track. I'm talking about just road racing, because you're an absolute legend at flat track. And you're also an absolute legend. I keep saying that, man, because what you have achieved with the amount of seat time that you have on a road race bike, getting to learn the tires, because you're coming from dirt. Now you're on the pavement. It's completely different, right?
It is.
I'm sure. Is the tire pressures?
No. I mean, depending on what tire we run, Midas came out with a real sticky tire that it likes. I think basically all my bikes that I've got, I've been running the same Dunlops from 2012 on the front top of the front tire, you know. So they work. You don't wear them out that bad, you know. You got to put a new one on. You put a new one on, which whatever. I think my KTM might be the only one that has a newer tire on it from probably 19. But no, as far as the rear, so I usually run the Midas, and the Midas opens up real well, and it's got deeper lugs. But it likes to be about 24 to 27, 26, somewhere in there. Usually I'm probably, oh, there's a fly on the camera. Usually I'm probably about 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dunlop, I haven't ridden on a Dunlop rear for quite some time. They've got the new DT4s out, and I guess they went to those quite some time ago. I think 18 was the first year, and that was the first year that I wasn't actively racing professional flat track. Dude, this fly just keeps buzzing around. So yeah,
You want some chef eats?
I guess, or I stink, one of the two. No, but as far as the tire pressure goes, I mean, I'd say that, I mean, realistically, I've been running, I think everywhere I've gone, I've been running 20 in the rear, 20, 22 in the rear. You know, so I mean, that's pretty close. The front, I could never fathom running 40 in the front on a flat track, you know. So, I mean, I don't, you know, that's also the other thing is like, I don't know how to ride the bike, but when it comes to setting a road race up, which I'm getting more comfortable with it now, but it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going off the Dunlop recommended sheet of, okay, well, you can go through this pressure cold, and then when it's hot, you go through this pressure. So it's working. And there's some people that I definitely lean on. Like I said, Mitch, he's road raced for quite some time between minis to bigger bikes. He's very smart about it. Usually we try to pit close together. I chat with Gene, which Gene is one of the mechanics for Hayden Schultz, or he is the mechanic for Hayden Schultz, and he is the guy that built those Pan Americas. If I'm not mistaken, somebody might be able to correct me. I don't know if anybody's listening in here.
I think you're right,
but I believe he built those bikes for the KWR team, and he is very, very smart. I've asked him a couple questions, and he's been gracious enough to give me knowledge. Like I said, I appreciate you saying, you know, all the kind things about how well that I do with the road race stuff. Like it is a big step. I was saying this earlier. When I say this about how, you know, little of road race experience, I don't say that to try and be like, oh well, yeah, I've only got, you know, yada yada. Like I definitely don't try to come off cocky as it, you know. I just try to explain, like, I don't really have the knowledge of why I'm doing what I'm doing so well. I just know that I'm doing whatever it is good, you know. So it's like I've never been a person that's like, oh yeah, I've never been cocky. Like, I try to believe in myself. I try to, if I have a question, I'll ask a question. You know, I've got to the point where it's like, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And I try to retain as much information about the road race stuff as I can, because it is all different. It's all new. Like I said, I could go set a flat track bike up pretty good to do just about anything you want on it. But the road race stuff, it's like, that's a learning curve in itself, you know. Okay, well, you got to read a tire to say, oh, the chain's too tight, or it's a hot tear, it's a cold tear, it's
too much air, too little air. And it's just like there's so many variables. It's like just make something. I think to myself, like, I just got to do something that's going to make the bike work the way that I want it to work, and I'm going to get around the track. And me and Dad's really starting to soak it up. You know, like I said, he just turned 70, so he is. If he's watching, he's getting old. You know, but he's really doing good. We did King of the Baggers last year, and man, that is so not just mentally demanding, but physically demanding for everybody on the team, because you've got the whole parade on the grid, you know. So there was multiple times where it's like Laguna, we were which Laguna is not that bad at hot pit to grid, you know, you're not that far. Road America is awful. It is so far away. Laguna, we were grid number 1.
Oh, nice.
No, that's all the way.
Oh, yeah, all the way back. Yeah. That sucks. Yeah.
So, we were hot pit number 1 at Laguna on the baggers. So, and it wasn't that far, but it's like I feel bad because, like I said, he's old. He doesn't need to be lugging a generator and all this other shit down the track to get.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's physically demanding for what it is for 2 people, you know. But I'm sure, you know, if you were the same way with your dad, I know a lot of guys are, but you get a little hard-headed, or you get a little butting of the actions from both parties, and it's like sometimes we got to look at each other. Like, we get to the point where we're like, we'll start bickering, and then we just kind of look, and it's like we just start laughing. It's like, dude, what are we arguing for? You know, neither one of us know what we're doing here. Like, we're just trying to throw something at the wall and make it stick, you know. But like I said, we're both getting very, very good at, you know, figuring out what we've got to do for the bike, what needs to be done when we go to Parquet. Just the whole weekend process. We're starting to get it dialed in, which is good. It's hard. The Super Hooligan's a lot easier because it is a quick start. If they make it to be where it's, you know, you got the whole shebang, the whole party beforehand on the grid, I think I get why they do it. They want to show, they want it to be cool, they want it to look like this, want it to look like that. But I think the quick start really helps the small guys. You know, I mean, there's Laguna, there was 36 of us. I think there was only 26 that gridded up, or I don't know how many gridded up, I guess. But the people towards the back, I mean, and even in the baggers, which the baggers now, it's just all factory teams, so I guess it really doesn't matter. Danny, my buddy Danny Ruthless, he ran the bagger at Laguna, and he's got a good team with him. He does. He's got a good, you know, his wife, his mom, a couple other friends. But it's, if you don't have that big team like Mitch, it's him and his wife. Me, it's me and my parents. So if you don't have that big team, it's such a hustle to just get anywhere if you've got to do the full grid party.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
Damn
it is.
Right, it is.
It is.
And people don't realize that. You know, they show up to the track, they see full leather suits with all these logos and patches and shit on them. So they immediately think, I wonder how much money he makes, or I wonder how much money she makes. And they don't see the struggles and the work. Shit, dude, it's I got 5 minutes, or whatever, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I got to go set up cold pit. I got to go set up hot pit. You know, you got again, I said it, the extension cords, the generator, the gas for the generator. Make sure it has gas in it, right?
Yep.
Fill up my tires a little bit more, because you don't ever want to add pressure on the grid. You want to take pressure out if I have to, right? It's that whole learning experience and everything that goes in. People don't see that. You don't have a lot of time. You got this much fucking time to get all that shit done. Yeah. And then as soon as you go, before you cross that finish line, they're already breaking down, heading back, taking everything back over to where you are pitted at, right?
Usually,
there's just again, this is what I love about our sport, is that you're new to the game. Even if you're not new to the game, You can go up to pretty much anybody in there and say, hey, I've never been there. I don't have any data. What do you recommend as far as gearing? Right.
Yeah.
Or give me the ballpark of suspension. Cause fuck, that's a whole nother fine art by itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can easily get lost in the suspension game because there's just so much to it. It really is. It's not as simple as click this, click that. Oh, I need 5 mils of preload or take 5 mils out. What does that translate? How does it feel? If I have too little and I go hit the front brakes, I didn't notice that my forks were bottling out, but I crashed because now my tire's trying to act like suspension and it loses grip because my forks are bottomed out. All that, it's definitely a whole new game, but that's what I love is my first love with road racing was that commodity with the parents taking the kids racing and having that whole family there, because that shows the love of our sport and the active battle that it takes to get on the grid, right, and to succeed. And then when you do good, the emotions that you and your family give are, I don't want to say better, but a lot more deep, because of all the struggles and trials and tribulations that you had to overcome and figure out. That somebody on a bigger team, they ain't got to worry about that. They show up, they get on the fucking bike, they go out there, ride, they come in, they say, oh, well, the front's doing this, it tucked here, it's chattering here, but in 6, 11, and 13, it feels really good, right? And the data guy goes this, the suspension guy goes that. So the hell for you, it's nowhere near that. You come in and it's all, I guess, YouTube guessing game, right?
Yeah, there's times where it's like, dude, it'd be so easy just to lay down. But that's not, if you do that, then what? Then it's like, okay,
you're not gonna do anything.
I mean, like I said, I could have said that a long time ago, and then it'd been like, like I said earlier, it's like I wouldn't have been here. Like we've always done things out of pocket. We've been fortunate enough to be able to do that, but it is very hard. Very hard.
It's stressful.
Last year I had some stuff kind of lined up for the baggers that unfortunately didn't work out, which is fine. It's that's fine with me. Nobody owes me anything. I'm going to try and do what I can with what I got, and that's what I'll do. If that's all I can do, then hey, I did it. That's what I can say. So that's kind of why the bagger stuff didn't really work out. And then it's like, we got with the Triumph, and I'm like, I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something more. Like I had that 890, but it was only making 114 horse. And I was like, well, I know where if the baggers have already progressed this much in just a year or 2 years, I know from my first year racing the 890 to the second year, and I was watching the class still, even though I wasn't there last year. I didn't race any Super Hooligan. I just watched it, and I could see the writing on the wall that the bikes were getting faster. I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not gonna be able to do. I'm gonna have to override my bike again to stay with the next group of people, or I'm gonna be shuffled even further back, and I was like, well, I can ride my 890 and be like the 27th person on a KTM in the Super Hooligan class, which they are great bikes. I will say that they are neat. If you've got an 890, go ride Moto America, go do track days, whatever. They are an awesome bike, very versatile.
It's a great base bike to somebody to get on, and it's got plenty of power. It handles great off the showroom floor. It brakes. It's got decent brakes. It's a good little all around.
It is. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, if I'm not going to ride the 890, like I said, I could have just said, well, the bagger stuff didn't work out. 890 stuff didn't work out. I'll go back to riding some dirt track, and whatever happens. I'll hang up and do whatever, whatever. But I was like, no, that doesn't sound fun. Like, I don't want to stop racing. And so that's kind of what put me to the thought of, okay, well, what would stand out? What would be different? What might work? A good friend of mine, I used to work out at the gym with him here and there. Very,
very smart guy. Derek is his name. And I'm not kidding you, he's one of those guys, like, he doesn't race. He's an avid motorcycle enthusiast. He could probably, if you asked him what a certain finish was in MotoGP, what year, what race it was, he could tell you. He could tell you what the bike was changed from the prior year to make it go so much better. Like, he's just one of those guys, like, he'll nerd out and he'll just, like, soak in all this information. And it's just it's cool to talk to because he knows a lot. But we were going back and forth, and he's like, man, he goes, why don't you do that street triple? And I'm like, well, I don't, it's not legal for the class yet. And we're only twins. And he's like, no, he goes, they opened it up. And I didn't catch it. They opened it up to having twins or triples in the super hooligan class, but it was still only saying 125 horse. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd have to get the base model. It's 124. Like, we'd be fine. And he was sending me all these different links and stuff of, like, how they're doing in Moto 2. And I really started looking. I'm like, okay, like, he actually might really be onto something. Like, this thing is technically a super sport bike. And granted, like I told you, it's a different learning curve for me because I've never ridden an inline 3-cylinder or 4-cylinder or anything like a proper crotch rocket or road race bike. But so I started really looking into it, and then a couple days later, I looked at the rules again, and they changed it from 125 to 128 for horsepower. I'm like, okay, this thing makes exactly 128 from the factory. Like, we'll get on it, we'll go, we'll see what it does. And like I said, I reached out to Triumph Indianapolis. Originally, they said that they were interested, but they couldn't do anything. I got a further contact. They directed me towards the guys at Triumph North America, and he's like, yeah, he goes, it sounds like a great idea. He goes, I'm going to get you hooked up with your local Triumph dealer that's a flagship dealer. Turns out it was Triumph Indianapolis. So we got back in the emails, like, hey guys, me again, and yeah, they set me up with a bike that I bought the bike. They hooked me up with some discounts on some stuff, parts and whatnot, nothing crazy, but I think it's from the amount of interest that bike gets at the track. I think there's at least 200 people that walk by my pit and they're like, oh, Triumph this, and they're like, they start talking to me, oh, I got a Triumph, I've got a street triple at home, or I used to be a Triumph dealer. It's so interesting to me. Like, with the 890 and even with the bagger, like, I had people that would come over and talk, but nothing like with that Triumph. And I don't know, it's an awesome bike. I don't know why nobody else is riding the 765. I mean, you can ride the 765 in Super Sport, right? Am I so yeah. Why is there not a team that's doing that? I guess I've never really asked. I know, I've been in touch with the guys that build this stuff for TOBC, so I didn't ever really ask them about it. I've kind of thought to myself, why doesn't TOBC do a full season? I guess for your opinion, what do you think? What do you think nobody rides the Triumph for in Super Sport?
My buddy Kevin Horney does. He races the 675. Yes. But man, I don't know. I think they're missing a golden opportunity personally, Cole. I think that the 675 is an amazing platform of a bike. Yeah. Triumph's come a long way. Right. Yeah. Back in the day, they had a bad rap. They head gaskets used to blow all the time. Kind of unreliable kind of deal. But the way they progressed, especially since they got that contract in Moto 2 after Honda, they won the contract over Honda because Honda was the sole proprietor for supplying the engines in the Moto 2, right? Triumph got them, and I think they stepped up their game as far as, engineering, production, parts on the bike, right? Better fit, just a better machine altogether. I think it's still kind of so fairly new And a lot of, you don't, when we go out here, we ride on a street cold, we don't see a whole lot of Triumphs. Just like Ducatis, you don't see a whole lot of Ducatis, right? You don't,
No.
it's either Suzuki's or Hondas or Kawasaki's.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those kind of marketing deals too. We don't see a whole lot of marketing for Triumph unless you go to road races. Now you're seeing more and more of it, right?
Yeah.
I think all that community has got to do with it as well. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're definitely heading in the right direction. The Triumph is such a beautiful bike.
It
sounds so good. It's not like an inline four where like a lot of people think that a triple versus inline four. A triple makes maybe a couple more foot-pounds of torque, but in the manner it makes the torque at a lower RPM and steadily through the whole rev range. Where an inline four, it might make 3 pounds less, but it's only from 9,000 to 12,000 RPM. That's your peak torque, right? So you got to stay within that. Where on a triple, you could be more lazy with it. Right. If that makes sense, right? I could be in third gear, come off the corner, and I have that torque to where it won't spin it up. Kind of like a tractor. You get that traction, it digs and it shoots out the corner. But I think that again, it's like CF Moto. CF Moto is making this big wave coming in here in America. It's a Chinese bike. It's kind of unknown quality of the motorcycle, right? I think that Triumph's absolutely you're gonna kill it on the Triumph.
I think it's a promising, once I figure the bugs out, and from what I've been told that the 24s are capable of, once it gets opened up, and like I said, once I get seat time and it gets opened up, and I get, I'm every weekend on it, I'm learning something new. I like with the deal in Daytona with Mitch, and I know he's watching now because he's commenting now, but so with him, at Daytona when we ran wide after we got back off the track, we were in Park for May, and he's like, I'm so apologize. I'm so sorry. And he's just apologizing about it the whole time. And I'm like, Mitch, hey, we didn't go down. We caught people. We passed people. We made progress. And to me, it was, I had stock suspension and stock rear sets that I raced Daytona on. And I was surprised that I did as good as I did, but I enjoyed it. I learned it. I was pushing more. I was figuring things out, and like I said, I think with getting some, I think I get with some of the right people on that thing, getting it opened up. I think that'll be huge. Like I said, going back to doing everything kind of out of pocket, it is a little stressful because, like I said, I thought about doing the full ECU right now, but it's like, okay, well, I do that cost is up here, and that's only for 4 races. And then if they change the rules, I hate to do that. So I'm gonna wait till winter and see if they get a little stricter with the rules, or see if they open the rules up. I'm not 100% positive what they're gonna do, but I think that bike has a lot of potential, and I think that I'm definitely just scratching the surface. Like I said, I was in cahoots or chatting more or less with Peter Hickman, and I was scratching his brain a little bit about some things. UK Race Support, I've been running a shock linkage from them, and it seems like it works very, very well. Just some things that I'm trying to figure out, and like I said, I can only do, as a person that's not as experienced in the road race as I am with the flat track, like I said, I can only do so much with the knowledge that I have. So it's like, I'm reading about this, I'm reading about that, I'm doing the research that I can. I'm trying to take the parts that are proven and put them on and do this and trying different things. like I said, with I don't know how much different the 675 is, and that's something that maybe I talk with Kevin about. I know, like I said, I told you the other day, like I've somehow become friends with him on almost every form of media, which is, and I have no problem with it because he posts some cool stuff. You know, he's always got some clips or whatever, and I think it might have been just because of the Triumph stuff, you know. But I guess it'd be a matter of talking with him. But I mean, as far as everything else goes, almost everything that anybody that has knowledge on these 765s, they're all overseas. So it's like, it's hard, you know, and I'm kind of working on some stuff here with one of the main guys over there to try and figure out some more parts and stuff, you know, just handling and agility and whatnot. And I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of potential in that bike.
You're right. Another thing too, I think that kind of a lot of people ain't racing it right now is because nobody has a whole lot of data on it because it's such a new bike, right? And they and now they don't want to be the guinea pig spending X amount of money trying to develop this thing and unlock the true potential. But you hit the nail on the head again, man. That's exactly who you need to talk to is Peter Hickman. I had the honor to hang out with Peter Hickman at his when I went to the UK for the BSB round at Cadwell. Real quick story. I woke up, knew Peter Hickman was like, his shop was like 9 minutes away from the hotel. Called, was like, hey, I'm American. I'm a huge Hickman fan, blah, blah. I want to come down and buy a hat and a t-shirt, meet and all this.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me Peter was there, right? So the dude on the phone was like, yeah, sure, blah, blah. Gave me the address, called a cabbie, showed up. He come out in the parking lot, met me, not Hickman, the guy that I talked to on the phone. I forget his name. And I'm sorry about that. But he come out to the car. I'm like, whoa, Simcoe from America, baby, let's go. Right. And they're like, holy shit, your energy is just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Didn't tell me Peter was inside. I walk inside the door. I look to the right. There's the fucking legend, Peter Hickman with his TT 136 mile an hour winning bike right there. And I was like, holy shit. Cool. Like, I just want to get down on my knees and bow down. Like, dude, you're a god, right?
And that's something that, like, I'm sure. Okay. So I'm sure you know some people from flat track, you know, I'd imagine, but I feel like I'm probably the way you are with flat track as with road race. So it's like, I know some of the greats, but I don't know everybody, you know, and then like comes to watching races and whatnot. It's like, I watch a lot of Moto America stuff. I don't, you know, I hate to say it, I don't watch a lot of the VSB. I don't watch a lot of MotoGP. I try to watch clips if I can, you know, and you know, I try to watch some of the stuff if I can, but I never end up seeing it live or whatever. I think I've been following BSB a lot more now with Hayden's ordeal. Congratulations to him. I think that's awesome. But or I guess it's World Superbike. That's not BSB. My bad. But so, you know, as far as all that stuff goes, yeah, it's like I was chatting with Hickman, and I'm like, I don't really know. I only have Peter Hickman, you know, PHR Racing, and then I met, and then I met him at Daytona, and I started talking to him, and I'm walking away, and I remember my dad was talking to me. He's like, hey, he goes, you know, that guy's like, he's won the TT like 12 times, 13 times. I'm like, what? And yeah. So I look him up, and I'm like, sure enough, yeah, that's cool. So I'm like, sure enough, I'm like, okay, like, I'm just in the presence of an absolute legend. Like, and yeah. So my dad just retired this year, and he wants to do a family trip over to the TTs to watch the TTs next year or the year after, sometime. He wants to take everybody over and go do it. And we were watching some of the TTs, me and my fiance were, and she asked me, she goes, yeah, so she goes, would you ever race this? And I'm like, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm kind of like, well, like, I know, you know, the consequences of it. And I'm like, you know, you know, I don't know. And she said, well, I'm surprised because I figured that would have been like an absolute yes. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably do it, but you know, I don't think I'd go full tilt. You know, I'd just, you know, ride where I was comfortable. But then I'm like, after I said that, I'm like, no, So I'd get out there, I'd get behind somebody, and I'd be like, all right, we got to go. I think it'd be neat to race the TT, obviously. That could be a pipe dream. I do think it would be, I wouldn't say easier, but I think it would be more attainable and more achievable to do the Northwest 200. I think that would be cool to do. I think that's more like an entry-level TT race.
Yeah. Oliver's Mount.
Yep.
Something like that. I'm a huge TT fan. Everybody knows that. That knows me. That's my favorite race of the year. And to me, this is the best way I explain it to people, because some of my friends that not into road racing, they're like, but people lose their lives at the TT and all this, and they should be banned and all this. I said, look, man, you can say that about any fucking sport in the world. Whatever it is, sword fighting, dude, whatever the shit it is, right? Skydiving. But I don't see it that way. That's not how you got to look at it. This is how you look at it. People that do that, for one, they are so comfortable on being in a confined space that's this big, okay, versus normal legends of the sport that do short circuit racing. We have runoff area that's this wide, right? So we feel more comfortable pushing at those speeds and doing that, where they, again, like I just said, but you don't never go into anything you love to do thinking of the consequences.
No.
And when you do that and you step up to the TT or the Northwest 200 or the Macau or Scurry's or whatever it is on an open road, pure road race, is you already accepted that. That's the last thing on your mind, right? The only thing you worry about is the people that you're going to leave behind. But even then, they accepted that.
Yeah.
And that's just the absolute fact. Okay.
Yeah.
So that whole excuse of, oh, it's so dangerous, this, that, I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. It's you risk your life, Kole, every time you get out there on that not crotch rocket, but race bike. You're out there on, it can happen just as easily as you as it could anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, so it's, I don't agree with people say stuff like that. It's you just don't understand the love for the sport and the passion and what drives them to do what they do, right? And a lot of people and fans that I talk to, they don't see it as, oh, dude, Cole's not risking his life. Look at all the runoff he's gotten. Look at all. Dude, what are you fucking kidding me right now? Absolutely, he is, right?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, you know how many people that I get that are like, you do what? How fast on concrete?
Yeah.
I'm like, I was like, I enjoy it. And even like I get people that road race that have told me, dude, you're dumb for doing flat track. You're 140 on dirt. They're like, what are you, brain dead? Like, it's like, no, it's not bad. It's slinging some dirt.
That's it. Just slinging the dirt, baby, hitting them berms. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could. I mean, I guess I know that I could, but I don't know if I would want to sign up for the TT. I think I'd rather do like the 200. But also, I don't think you just go sign up for the TT either.
No,
you got to start. I think you'd have to do some sort of other TT besides the actual TT. I think you'd want to do like I said, Northwest 200 or any other ones you named before jumping into Isle of Man.
Yeah,
I mean that's
a jump. So I got friends that actually race at the TT that I've actually had on the podcast. It's been an honor. So I asked them that question. Hey, what do you got to do to qualify for the TT? It's not like Moto America. I get 100 points for my race license. I show up, sign up, pay my entry fees for the season, get all these passes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm in. It's you do got to compete certain amount of road races, accumulate certain amount of points, have certain finishes, right? But it's an invitation. You got to get invited. And in the TT, the Northwest 200, any open roads, right? You especially the TT, it's 37.5 miles, one lap. There's so much shit that goes on, right? It's YouTube videos. You got to go out there. You get up with Milky Quail. Milky Quail is a TT legend. He takes you out there, new beginners. He takes you laps on the track. You drive in a car. You learn the circuit. You learn where the manhole covers are, where your braking markers, this mailbox a braking marker, this bush is my braking marker. It's there's so much more to learn and so much to take in. It's years of newcomers coming to do it, right? Which I agree with that.
Yeah, and that blows my mind. Like I know Patricia, she's done it a few times.
She has.
And then Corey did this
Corey
year.
did it. Yep.
And that's, I mean, to me, that's huge too. Like you said, there's a lot you got to learn. And how many days did they let you do it? How many days did they let you learn it? Like just a couple?
Yeah,
30?
It's not. I'll tell you what I'll do. I got a good buddy, Adam Bauer. He races the Mannix GP, which is part of the TT course. I need to hook you two up because he could tell you exactly what you need to do, how he did it, how he learned it, the whole nine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could ask Patricia and Corey too as well.
Yeah.
But I know Adam, he's a good friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
He does it. So yeah, I'll get you two hooked up. He could tell you. Because it's people that do that, and to me, bro, Kole, it's not those guys that run what they call them the solos, right? Which meaning just you and the bike. It's the sidecars, and it's not the guy driving the sidecars. It's the monkeys that are sitting inside of them that blow my mind. I'm like, holy shit, dude, you guys are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
They are.
Andrew and Kayla, they're like, yeah, you could go do Blackhawk Farms. They've got a ARMA race coming up. They do sidecars during it. And I'm like, you're going to tell me I'm going to be in a sidecar? They're like, yeah, you could drive it. You could be the monkey. I'm like, I don't think I want to be any part of it. You know, like even, I would drive it by far, but being the monkey, and it's being the monkey at Isle of Man or something like that. Oh my good Lord. No, thank you. That's crazy to me.
Dude, it's absolutely this is the best way I can say it, the most beautiful thing you ever seen, right?
It is.
It's the monkey don't see where the bike's going. The monkey has the track memorized right here because he or she is so much going, I gotta lean back for more traction, lean forward for less traction. I gotta help the bike turn this way, catty corner, and there's pictures, you see photos where they're dragging the whole side of their body and their head on the side. Just
tilt their head down, drag their head. Bro, I'm like, yep.
It's it's so beautiful.
I mean, you do a full you know, like a track like what we run, closed course, and that's, you know, I feel like that would be, you know, not, I wouldn't say easy to be the monkey on, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I could, you know, you got a lot of runoff, you got, you know, but to do like, I've seen a couple of the videos over the years, and it's like they're leaning, they got their head way off the side, just basically perpendicular with their parallel to the road, and their head's like this far from the retaining wall. I'm like, man, you catch a little bump just right, you're nicking some of the paint off.
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize that the way they train their bodies, the monkeys, is different than the guys driving the car or the motorcycle, right? Because he's physically getting all those G forces, grabbing those bars and moving, dude. It's like I tell people, take a stick, put a wheel on it, and spin it 100 miles an hour and try to spin that bitch. See how much force it takes,
Good luck.
right? Yeah,
good luck.
Exactly.
Good
100%. And Dalton says Peoria TT in the pink.
Yeah, that's my buddy Dalton Billups. We ride moto together, and we're gonna ride over to Peoria TT and then go get catfish the night before.
I love it, dude. It's good stuff, man. Dude. So I want to go to the TT. Like I said, it's on my bucket list. It's in order to go the TT, as soon as the TT ends, like literally the next day, I got an email. I think it was like a week after the TT or 3 days after. They'll send out an email and preparing for the next year, right? Yeah. And as far as renting houses, Airbnbs, all that, because it fills up so quick. You got a year in advance it pretty much. I want to be that insane fan 5 inches away when Hickman and McGinnis is coming down. Mock Jesus speed, just boom, 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 and you're like, holy shit, you know, being that close. I know, you know, I've worked with a couple of my buddies that race in Junior Cup and been on hot pit, cold pit, standing there at the wall, Road America, where I could literally stick my finger over the wall like this, and you're close enough to hit it if you're dumb enough to stick, right? And that adrenaline and that emotions that I feel from that, imagine being at the TT, right? It would be just a whole new level, man. It is. I love. It's like Cadwell Park, bro. It's the mountain course jump. It's something when you see it in real life, you're like, holy shit, these
I
guys.
think Cadwell would be fun to go race.
Bro,
I mean,
telling you.
any of the BSB would be fun to go race.
It would be. You know, this is BSB's free to watch, everybody. I say it all
Yep.
the time. Bennett'sBritishSuperbike.com. They had a race today. There's races tomorrow. You guys go to the website, you don't even got to log in. You just go to the website, scroll down, and it has a yellow button that says live. You hit that fucking live, and boom, you're in. But on Friday, when they first show up for the first practices and all that, you cannot watch it live, but they have something at the bottom of the screen. It's called TSL timing. You click on that, it'll bring up a timing board, and it has commentary. You hit on the commentary, and then you can listen to all the practices, all the sessions, and all that. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's all live for free on TV. Yeah, so they're all the other apps you got to pay for, as far as MotoGP, World Superbike, Moto America, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think that separates BSB from all other road racing organizations is that UK is only but so big, so they're pretty much 4 and 5 hours to any track, which keeps the cost down. It's feasible to get into.
Yeah.
But what makes it my favorite, Cole, is the super bikes don't have hardly any electronics on them. Their super stock bikes have more electronics than the super bike does, right? Which
that's what you were saying when we were on the phone the other day. It's like like my buddy Derek said, he's like, dude, he goes, watching MotoGP's dang near like watching slot cars, I mean, they auto squat, they go, there's really no, they're all running the same speed. There's not a whole lot of passing on some of the places just because it's so just in formation,
It is. It takes away from the show, the passion, the it's nothing like it was when, 2003, 2002, all that good stuff. But dude, bro, Cole, we've been on this for almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's been an awesome time. Dude, it's been an awesome time for sure. I told you we was gonna have a really good time, right?
It is a good time.
But dude, listen, it's Saturday. I want to go out here. My wife's not feeling too good, but before we get off here, I want to get into the personal questions, right? And then stay on with me for a couple more minutes so I can get the question for the next guest, and we will set up part 2 and 3 and 4 and all that good stuff for the podcast. So you will be back on here many times, and I know you got many stories to tell.
I'll look forward to it.
Me too.
Hopefully we'll have some more success stories. I think that'll be in the book, but
you will, Cole. Absolutely, you will. I have no doubt in my mind, and I tell all my friends that race, whatever level you see yourself achieving, whatever goals Cole King has for himself as far as the road racing community goes and where you want to end up and where you'll be satisfied at in your career, I hope you achieve that 8 times over, right? And I will be there with you cheering for you the whole freaking way and drinking the beers with you and all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Eating good catfish and all that, right?
I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Me too, buddy. Me too. So listen, I want to get into, which has always been my favorite part of the interviews, getting to know you personally, away from the legend that you are. The leathers are hung up. Bring dogs in the room, right? All that good stuff, because I know you're an animal lover just like me.
Yeah.
So let me start off by asking you this. Your favorite comedian. Who is Cole's favorite comedian?
Oh, man. Theo Vaughn. I'm real big into Theo Vaughn. He's just the off the wall stuff that he says, he is hilarious. Shane Gillis, he's good too. I'd say Theo. I can't put I can't say just one, I don't think, but it'd be a kind of a between 3. Just the way, I like Andrew Schultz because he's very, you never know what he's going to say. He's just very, I'm like, I don't know how that guy hasn't been canceled yet, but no, he's good. Theo Vaughn, Theo's hilarious. Like I said, Shane Gillis, I'd say those guys. So.
Yeah, one of my favorites always growing up was George Carlin. He just same thing, right? Like, And then my buddy turned around to this other guy. Well, a matter of fact, yesterday when me and Charlie were talking about it, my buddy texted me, and his name was a comedian. Damn it, Matt Rifle.
Oh
Matt
yeah, Matt Rife. Yes.
Matt Rife.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So he's got a Netflix special, I think my buddy told me. So I'm gonna sit down and turn
Okay.
that on and check that out. But yeah, man. Books. I'm a big audio book listening to and podcasts too, right? But do you read books or listen to audio books or anything like that?
You
Or
know,
podcasts?
so as far as books go, I used to in high school. Oh, dude, I couldn't put a book down. If I found a good book, I'm reading it. I haven't sat down and read a book for a while now, actually. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't as much as I used to. Before I was running my shop, I was a heavy equipment operator, and I sat in an excavator from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. So I mean, you can only listen to so many songs on a playlist before it starts playing over again. So I listened to a lot of podcasts where it was like The King and the Sting with Theo Von, Brandon Schaub, a lot of Joe Rogan stuff. My fiance got me turned over to Ed Milet. I don't know if you've ever listened to him. Super motivational speaker. I actually wrote some notes down because I wanted to touch base on this. The Ed Milet Show podcast. He is, if you get a chance, and like I said, if you listen to motivational stuff, listen to Ed Milet. There's some good podcasts that he's done.
Ed Milet.
Ed Milet, Mylett.
Ed Milet.
If I'm not mistaken, he does a podcast. It's one of the shows that really resonates. If I remember it correctly, and I know if she's still listening, she'll tell me when I get home if this is right or not. The Power of One More. Whether it's one more day, one more rep, one more lap, whatever. Basically, just don't lie down and give up.
Yeah.
That's a good podcast. I think the other one that I listened to that I really liked was Cameron Haynes.
Yep.
Keep Hammering Collective. That whole audio book collective that he did there. That one was a good one. I thought I got all the way through to it, and I think there's only 2 chapters left that I haven't listened to, or a chapter left that I haven't listened to. And I need to get back to listening to it, but that was a pretty good one. Usually I jump between some of the funnier podcasty stuff, depending on the humor of the podcast, and I don't mind it, but some of the stuff, it's like, okay, it's getting repetitive or whatever, but like the stuff with Joe Rogan, usually like it goes from a funny to a serious to kind of back to a funny, so the Joe Rogan podcasts are usually pretty good. That's what I usually listen to as far as podcasts and stuff go.
Yeah, I listen to Joe Rogan too.
Yep.
Who don't?
Yeah, exactly. I listen to a lot of music everything between soft, easy elevator listening to you don't want some more heavy metal stuff. Everything between. I get on a kick of new metal, grunge, a lot of Creed, a lot of stuff like that. There we go.
The Power of One More is
that is
book too.
Yep, that is my fiance, Allie. That's her and her grandma. Her grandma just passed away here not too long ago.
Sorry.
But yes, The Power of One More. Read it. It is a good. I haven't read the book, but I've listened to some of the podcasts, and he always discusses it.
I'm writing all this down because I'm a big audio book and podcaster. It's funny is when I tell people I don't listen to a whole lot of motorcycle podcasts, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, I just don't, man." It's
I I've tried. Some of them I do. I listen to some. I think the two that I've listened to, I guess, as of lately, I listen to some of the stuff with Corey Texter and the Pin the Gas podcast, but or Tank or not? Yeah, well, Tank Slapping podcast with Corey Texter. Yes. I've listened to some of his stuff. I enjoy his stuff. I've actually been finding myself listening to more and more of your stuff, going through and I will say there's, like I told you on the phone, I'd catch some podcasts that you'd done with some other people, and it was weird because you kind of just showed up on my Facebook out of nowhere, and I was like, okay, well, I like this guy. He's got good energy. He's got great people that are coming on. They're talking about good stuff. So I started following you on everything, or I think it was mostly just on Facebook. I ended up being on the group on it. Yep. But I always looked for it, and then it seems like I said, I've probably listened to half a dozen or so of your podcasts over the past couple of years, or over the last year or whatever, since I've been seeing more of your stuff. And then since we talked on the phone, I don't know if my phone's recognized or what, but it's like now I'm seeing all of your stuff, and it's like, so the other day I was mowing. It takes about 3 hours to mow out here at my parents' place, and I started a podcast an hour beforehand while I was still working. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna put my earbuds in, I'm hopping the mower. So I finished that. Then I started another one with Levy Batty. Listened that whole through. What was the other one? I've listened to like 4 or 5 of them in a row pretty much. And then I was in the middle of it yesterday of listening to one, and I get on Facebook. I'm like, hey, he's live right now. I'm going to watch this one. So then I sit there and I'm doing a whole front end fork kit on a Harley, and I'm just listening, and I'm trying to like get my hands clean so I can type in comments, So I like I said, I don't always listen to motorcycle stuff. I feel like I said, I've been listening to your stuff more because I do enjoy the energy. I do enjoy the people that you have, and I think a lot of the stuff that they also say is very informational too. The other one with Rispoli,
Pipe Dreams.
Yes, I've listened to that a few times. The one that really stuck out as controversial as he seems to be is with Heron. Yeah. I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about him, but no, I thought that was a pretty good listen. And then I listened to the one with Wyman, and I thought that one was a pretty good listen too. So, other than that, I really, it's mostly kind of more of a comedic stance on podcasts or something to kind of like break the ripples in the pond or whatever. Like I said, I do listen to some motivational stuff, and then music and stuff. Like I said, it's everything between literally everything between elevator music to screamo and stuff. And it's like I end up finding myself in more of like the 90s era of grunge or punk rock or whatever. All
that good stuff. I'm the same way. I can go from Pantera to Frank Sinatra, right? It's depending on what mood I'm in. And as far as what I was gonna say, motorcycle podcast, I listen to Moto PG, which is 3 of my mates out in Australia. They're absolutely fucking hilarious. And then I listen to my mate Dave Neal, Off Track, which is out there in the UK, not Brothers in Christ Off Track, but the Off Track out there. And then I'm like you, I listen to a lot of motivational. My wife does a lot of like true crimes, like my car Bluetooth connect, blah blah blah. So I'll jump in my car, my wife's listening to her podcast, I'll turn it on, and she listens to like this murder shit. She's like, and she stabbed him 30 times. I was like, whoa, what the hell is this playing on my shit, right? But yeah, I'm all over the place when it comes to podcasts too. Just man, I listened to one on aliens. I forget what it was called. And I listen to a lot of like the Greek mythology, the Egyptian mythology, because I'm into shit like that too. So it's interesting going back and see how they did shit, learning the mines and all that. Oh, that's another rabbit hole, right?
Oh yeah.
But let me ask you this. Tell us something we don't know about Kole King at all, besides the legend that you are.
I don't know. I feel like that's I don't know. I can ride a unicycle.
I can too.
I feel like, yeah. So actually, Jordan Eubanks, he was, I didn't know he had a unicycles with him at Laguna, and they interviewed him. And I was like, hey, I commented on the post on Super Hooligans. I said, hey, I challenge you to a unicycle race at Ohio. So we got a unicycle race. I don't know where we're going. I don't know how far we're going. I don't know if we're doing a lap around the track. I don't know if we're doing laps in the pits. I don't know what the plan is. I got to get mine down out of the Raptor and aired up. It's a nice one, but I haven't touched it since I was probably 16. But I haven't spent more time on it than 5 minutes since I was 16, I should say. Yeah. I can still unicycle pretty good. It was one of those things that we bought it because everyone was like, oh yeah, if you got a unicycle, you learn how to balance, so it'll help you race better, and body, mechanics and whatnot. And like, okay. And it took me a day. I was going through I was holding on to furniture in the house, and I'm like, okay, I got it. And come out here to the shop, and it's a 60 by 40 shop on the back behind this door. And I'm like, at the time we didn't have this room built in, but I start at one end, I'm holding on to the wall, and I start pedaling. I just go all the way down the end. All I could do is get to the far end, hold the wall, turn, get to the other far end. And it took me 2.5, 3 days to figure out how to actually fully ride it from start to finish. I was like, okay, not doing too bad. But yeah, that's it'd be more impressive if I could juggle, I think. But no, I don't know. I guess as far as I don't think there's not a whole lot.
I love it, dude. I love it. The unicycle, man. It took me a while too, and I ain't been on a unicycle. God damn. Bro, it's been a long time. I got my old one. It's up in the raft. I got a detached garage too, a 30 by 30. And man, I haven't got on that thing, and it's been a long time. I'm sure if I got on it, it would I'd definitely bust my ass trying to do it.
Try and do it and bring it to Ohio, and we'll have a three-way race. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. I don't know what the winner's going to win, but
we'll figure that out, right?
Yeah.
We'll say the loser has to cook dinner.
That's fine.
There you go.
I'm not a good cook, so hopefully Jordan is.
I am. I can cook, so I ain't gonna worry about it. Yeah, I got you.
Hey, if it's Chef Eats, that's even better.
Right? It's just a microwave. Who got a microwave? Boom, here it is, baby. Yeah, I made this at home. Yeah,
exactly.
This is home scratch meal right here. Oh, I love it, man. All right, so let me ask you this, dude. What's your worst habit?
I bite my nails. I bite my fingernails. I don't know what to do with my hands half time. My mitts are sweating right now because I've been just sitting here rolling my fingers back and forth. I get nervous, and it's like, man, dude. Okay, so Daytona last year, I was going to do Super Hooligan, but I didn't because GNHC Grand National Hooligan Championship got invited to do Daytona flat track. And he's like, yeah, it's invite only. We're going to invite X amount of hooligans. Like, we want to put on that show. And I was like, well, I can't do both. I want to do the road race, but I want to do a good showing for, Grand National Hooligan with the AFT level, because they actually ended up doing more than one race with AFT, which was awesome. But I got the whole shot, and I led the thing, and I'm coming around. I ended up winning that short track season opener last year at Daytona, and I won it. But when I was coming across the white flag, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I already got interviewed for my heat race win, and I'm like, now I'm getting ready to get interviewed, be on a podium, and I'm like, God, this is nerve-wracking. I don't want to do this, Like that was the first thing that came across my mind when I seen the white flag. I'm like, man, I could just let up and let everybody pass me real quick, and I don't have to get interviewed because I don't. There's pictures of me, and I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing with my gloves, but I'm like taking them off. My hands are up here. I'm like, this is awkward. Anytime I get around a camera, I get weird. I guess that's not a bad habit, but I bite my fingers when I get nervous, and that's Yeah, that's about it. Bite my nails, I think.
Yeah, I used to bite the shit on my nails. I still do.
Oh,
But
yeah, I do.
I've been actually really good at it here lately, trying to it's a habit I've done since I was a little kid. And same
Yep.
thing, I get nervous and anxious. I'm like,
There's times where I'm not even nervous and anxious, and I'm just
yeah,
biting
I
my
do it.
nails. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I know. I do too. My mom said, "You want to put some hot sauce on that?" I looked, I was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's try it." And she's like, "Shut up, dude, shut up!" Like she's trying to get me to stop. I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
yeah, give me some hot sauce. That'll be good." Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you on that. It's awesome, man. So let me. Are you a Star Wars or a Star Trek guy?
Oh man, Star Wars is more my time, I think. Star Trek is more definitely more. I don't know. That's a little bit. I feel like that's a little bit older. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Star Wars fan. So
Yeah.
so what
I'm more
character
Star
would you
Wars.
be? What character would Cole King be in Star Wars?
I feel like as hairy as I am, I'd be Chewbacca. I mean, it's like this is. I just shaved. I clean shaved, and I just had a mustache before I went to Laguna. So this is today's Saturday. So we're looking at a week and 2 days. And I mean, it don't look. I don't know if the camera's picking it up.
Yeah,
But
I
mean,
can see it. Yeah.
So
For sure.
I feel like I could be Chewbacca. You
I
know.
like it.
Yeah.
I love it. So if you can invite any three people to a track day, Cole, right? They could be MotoGP racers to movie stars to celebrities, whoever you want. What three people are you going to bring to your track day?
Oh man. I feel like I'd definitely have to do Hayden Gillum or Nikki Hayden. I keep thinking Hayden. I keep trying to figure out how he did 21st today, didn't he? Or 22nd?
22nd. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for him.
Hayden Gillum. Me too.
Yes.
I was so excited.
No, Nikki Hayden, I would take to a track day. I think that would be cool to ride with him and just converse. You know, I was, like I said earlier, like Mitch said, I was knee high to a grasshopper. I was a little kid, and it was, you know, Tommy, Roger, and Nikki that did the three-way sweep at Springfield TT, and you know, I barely remember it, but yeah, I mean that's, you know, that's cool. He's a dirt track legend and road race and stuff, and yeah. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like him. I can't think of. You guys said it the other day. The Keanu Reeves, just like the knowledge and everything. Oh, I'd invite my sister. Probably, dude. She'd have a heyday going around a track. No, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd invite her to a track day. She'd be tiptoeing around the corners. Like, dude, come on, you got to go. Yeah, I think Keanu Reeves. I think just with the knowledge and just like his, like how interesting of a person that he is and what he's into as far as bikes go. I mean, that's, you know,
he's my favorite actor. It always has been, dude. Johnny Utah, John Wick, The Matrix, Neo. Yeah, dude, he's an absolute legend.
Man, I feel like I want. Yeah, I was just gonna say Rossi or Heron, just because Rossi would be cool to ride with, but so would Heron. I feel like he's kind of got that, you know, that character and that energy that he's got, you know. But just I like the way that Heron rides because you can see that he's not scared to be uncomfortable. He's not scared to get disrupted on a bike, like from everything that I've seen, anyways. I mean, I feel like he rides him like an animal coming out of the corners. And that brings us back to, not to get too far off track, but that kind of brings us back to like what you were saying about track time and whatnot. Like, there's been times where it's like I'm going around the track and I see somebody else do something. It's like, okay, I could do the same thing. Like I try to mirror them if I'm behind them long enough. You know, I've got in behind Herfoss, and it's like I'm seeing what he's doing. It's like, okay, I can do that. You know, but so I think that would. Yeah, Hayden, Keanu, and yeah, I think I'd go with Rossi. I think Rossi would be a good one. I'd like to go. I want to go to his ranch. I keep seeing Sammy Halbert go over ride his ranch all the time. I'm like, dude.
So I got, look, when I tell people I'm a flat track fan, they're like, dude, shut up. We don't ever hardly hear you say it. Look, I got Sammy Halbert signed.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And Brad Baker, the legend right there. Yeah, man.
Yep.
It's yeah.
Brad's such a good dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an absolute legend, man. He
is.
Both of them are for sure. So let me ask you this. If Cole King had his own personal island and you could only have one racetrack on that island, what track would be on your island?
Oh,
it don't even have to be road race. It could be your flat track, but what track would you have?
I think, man, that's hard. That's hard.
It's a good question, though.
I mean, like I said, obviously, I don't have a whole lot of experience on what tracks I've ridden versus what tracks I haven't ridden. But I think a track that I could ride every day would have to be Road America. I enjoyed that place last year. I think I could ride that place every day.
Road America is awesome.
That would be my answer.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like Road America, and I like Road Atlanta a lot too. I think.
Yeah. Well. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Road Atlanta. I take that back. Road Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
Yeah. Road Atlanta is a freaking amazing track, man. It really is. And of course, this is a question I've been asking. Do you have any tattoos? I know you do because I've seen them on your arm, right?
Yep. I've got Metatron's cube.
Nice.
That's like health and protection.
Yep.
An all-seeing eye with a mandala. I've got some filler there. I've got the 5 sacred geometric, fire, earth, air, spirit, water. I've got a full-blown leopard.
Nice.
I've got.
Did that hurt on your ribs?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I thought it was going to. It got up into my armpit, and that's where it hurt.
Yeah.
The armpit, and then right at my underwear line. I've got some leaves around my kneecap. That hurt. I've got if not now, then when on the back of my calf. So that gal, Kayla, that's crew chief to Andrew Berkeley, we're sitting there. I don't even know where we were. I think it was Washington. I'm looking at her. I don't know why I was looking at her ankle. It caught me off guard, but I'm looking at her ankle. I'm like, we got the same ankle. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, we got the same tattoo. And she's like, are you kidding me? And I pulled down. It's the gear shift pattern. So it wraps around the bone of your ankle, and it's first, neutral, second, third, all the way to sixth. And she's like, she goes, when did you get that? I'm like, 2018, I think it was, or 2019. I think it was 2018, spring of 2018. She said, well, I got mine fall of 17. And she said, I had it first. I'm like, well, I'm not removing it. So, but she's like, I thought I was original. Apparently not. I'm like, well, I thought I was too. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. But yeah.
With more to come, right? Because I love tattoos. I got some. Me and my buddy. So Billy Pedro. Everybody knows who Billy Pedro is. He's got the same Valentino Rossi son that I have on my back.
Yep.
And of course, I got my Marco Simoncelli one. And then I got Ducati, because Ducati's always been my favorite bike. To me, they're the most beautiful women on the planet when it comes to two wheels. Mine, the worst for me was the one on my back, my Rossi one, bro. When it got to my spine, and she hit that shit on my spine, I was like, whoo, now that woke me up, right? I was like, okay, I gotta prepare for this one. It was it's just one of those things, dude. You got to get it done. So you just got to suck it up, buttercup. Suck it up, right?
I set the lady that did my snow leopard. She's actually in Sweden now, if I'm not mistaken. So she went to school with my middle sister. So I've got two older sisters. Darcy commented, and then my brother-in-law Brady. He's married to my other sister. So my oldest sister's 12 years older than me, and then my youngest sister's 10 years older than me.
So I was kind of a whoops, but yeah. So the girl, if I'm not mistaken, she went to school with my youngest sister, or was around the same grade, anyways, and she was real artsy in high school, and then she went over to Sweden or Switzerland or somewhere over there and studied black and gray art and tattooing, and got like perfected, like super realism. And she was working in Des Moines for a while. And I was supposed to go back before she left, but now she's over there for good, and she only comes over like once in a blue moon. But she only does 6-hour sessions, and she's like, well, since I've never had anybody set as long as you did, she goes, we're fine with it. We went 7.5 hours. She did two 15-minute breaks because she needed the 15-minute breaks. Otherwise, we knocked it out. It was a one session on my whole rib cage, and yeah, I mean it hasn't really, it's faded a little bit, but not bad. It still looks pretty real, and it goes from here to my backside a little bit, but I was fine. The ribs didn't bother me at all. It just got towards the armpit, and my underwear line was where it was the worst. But yeah.
It felt like a constant bee sting to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to do more. I don't know what I want to do to an extent. I kind of got some different ideas, but I don't know. I want to do some more realism stuff, but I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to find. It's hard to find, especially in our area or my area. It's hard to find good realism tattoo artists and stuff. You know, there's a couple of them around that do real well, but you usually got to travel for them.
Yeah. Dude, we got the CJ. What is up, bro? He says, my dude Kole, Legacy Army in the house.
Like I said, you know him, don't you?
Yeah, I know CJ. Yeah.
CJ's good shit.
CJ's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he is. He's got his energy it's up top. It's up top. He's good, dude. He is hilarious. Yeah.
Me and him's been trying to schedule a podcast forever. So CJ, my dude, hit me up, bro. Yeah, we need to get this scheduled and done with for sure. CJ is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to I want to go to Daytona next year, and I'm definitely gonna hang out with CJ 110%.
Yeah. Where are you out of?
I'm in Roanoke, Virginia.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, I'm not. I used to go to Indy every year for the MotoGP race.
Yep.
I only missed 1 year. Yeah, so it was funny. So real quick story, I had the first year, 2008. We showed up at our hotel. I forget the fucking hotel. We was right across the street from the goddamn Indianapolis Colts Stadium, like literally. And going down in the bar because shit, I wanted a drink. Man, we just drove 8-9 hours. I'm like, get me out the car. We'll check in. I am going to I gotta go to the bathroom, and then I need a stiff drink. Like I got so much energy built up right now. I gotta vent it somehow. So I walked downstairs in the bar, man, and they had this big old cardboard inaugural 2008 MotoGP with Nicky Hayden on it. So when I approached the bar, I said, let me get a mojito, and I need to talk to the manager. The lady looked at me like, what do you need to talk to the manager for? I'm like, I want this sign right here, like this cardboard cutout. I want this at the end of the weekend. She said, look, here's a Sharpie. Write your name on the back of it. I said, I'm staying right here. This is my hotel room, blah, blah, blah. She says, Sunday, when you get back, before you guys check out, take it with you. Sunday morning, I woke up. I went straight down there, grabbed it, went straight back up to my hotel room with it, and stuck it in before I even went to the race. Yes, I made sure that I brought that home for sure. Absolutely amazing. Dude, Kole, I ask everybody this: are you a pineapple on pizza guy?
I can get down with pineapple on pizza. I can get down with it. I know some people are like, it's nasty. Pineapple doesn't go on pizza. No, it does. You gotta have better taste buds.
Right.
You're just out here eating some stiff milk pretty much. Like just have some, it's just added flavor, you know.
Have an open mind.
Yeah.
Have an open mind, man. I find too often now people are too single-minded and they don't like to think outside the box. They stay in this little bubble, right? It's
Usually anytime, who was it? I was just listening to the podcast with him. I think it was it was Max Fan. He was talking about the peanut butter on his burger. Dude,
Yeah.
anytime that I can go anywhere and I find a good cheeseburger and it says peanut butter on the items that's on it, I'm getting that
it.
burger.
Yep.
It's Usually it's a nice bacon burger with peanut butter, big old slab of peanut butter on it. It's like, you don't think it'd go good together, but it does.
So I have I watched this YouTube guy cooking. Is Sam the cooking guy, and what he does is cool. Is he people that watch his channel, they'll send him in recipes, and then if he likes it, he'll actually make the recipe that they send in. Well, this one couple sent in peanut butter and jelly hot wings.
Oh, okay.
And
That
I was
sounds
like,
pretty good.
hold up. This is absolutely so different. And they are absolutely amazing. So what I'll do is I'll send you the actual channel.
Okay.
And it's got the whole I'll screenshot the recipe. Dude, they are absolutely amazing. And if you like peanut butter and jelly, I'm telling you right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, yeah, they are some of the best wings I ever had. They're
you show me a Uncrustable, I'll smack that thing down real quick too.
Dude, real quick, right? Yes.
Dude, I tell you what, like I'll fluctuate during race season on my weight. Usually right around peanut butter and pickles all day. Yeah.
All day.
Usually like I'll fluctuate probably a good 10, 15 pounds up or above. Usually 10 pounds, I should say, above or below 200. I'll do real good, and then as soon as I get somewhere to race, it's like, all right, well, what's for dinner? You know, like I'm trying to find something good. Like at Laguna, so we went to a place. It was me, Hayden Schultz, Gene, Mitch, his wife, Andrew, and Kayla, and we get there, and I got this angel hair pasta with tomatoes and some other stuff, and I like it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it just didn't. It wasn't. It was more of an oil instead of an Alfredo, and it just didn't really like satisfy my need for the carbs. So the next night, me, Mitch, and Deanna, we loaded up and went to another place, and I found another angel hair pasta with Alfredo and shrimp, and I got it, and it was like I just killed 2 big bowls of pasta just because I wasn't happy with the first one. So the second one I got, it's like, man, like if I ate like that all the time, usually
fat boy.
Yeah. Usually I don't shouldn't say that I don't eat too bad, because like I said, if I don't grab it at the house, if I don't make breakfast, or if I get out of the house before Allie gets done making breakfast, I'll snag a breakfast slice of pizza from Casey's, which is, I'm terrible about it, but I'll die on that grave, on that hill. Casey's Pizza has my heart, I think. But so I'll usually do that, or there's a lot of times where it's like I'll leave the house, I'll grab a trail mix pack and an energy drink of some sort. Usually I drink these Ghost energy drinks. They're 0 calorie. They're healthy for you, healthier than the other options, you know, or I'll drink these Monster Zero energy. And then it's just like I pretty much fast all day, and then dinner, it's like I'll have, you know, whatever I have for dinner. Usually, like I said, Allie does a really good job of eating healthy. If anything, I'm the one that influenced her to not eat so good. And like I said, I feel bad about it sometimes. It's like if there's something on the menu that looks good, I'm indulging. I try to stay away from the desserts. I will mess up a brownie mud fudge deal, whatever. There was one of them out there in California that I tore up, but I mean, I try to stay away from desserts because I will get lost in a sugar attack pretty much. So yeah, when it comes to food, that's like I said, I get more excited. I get more excited for food when I go to a location than I do anything else.
Yeah,
So
I'm the same way. And me, you said it earlier, I get excited about taco trucks. Like when I go to Texas for the GP race, I don't eat at the Mexican restaurants there when I'm in Texas. I don't go to any restaurants. I find the taco trucks on the
Yep.
outskirts that
Yep.
are parked in the parking lot. They have
Yep.
the most amazing food you're going to get.
If you
It's-
find I've found them more and more at the big cities. You find the gas station that has a taco truck or a truck that's parked there and they got lights ran. That's a permanent one, and you know they're doing good because they're not gonna that gas station's not gonna let some crappy food place serve food out. Yeah, that stuff. I'll find a taco truck. The other thing is, there's a Dang Brothers Fire Pizza, Dang Bros Pizza. They started in Iowa for RAGBRAI, that big bicycle ride that goes across the state of Iowa. They built a couple fire trucks where the whole back is like a wood stove or whatever. I met them out at the Mint 400, and they're like, "Yeah, we're from Iowa." And I'm like, "What?" And so they travel all these big events. The last year they were at Laguna. The year before they were at Laguna. This year they weren't. But man, a wood fire pizza. If it's usually they're hard to beat a wood fire pizza.
It is. It is.
Those are
And
good too.
I love pizza, dude. That's probably one of my favorite all-time food is pizza, right?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with pizza, and you can do anything with it, right? Yeah, man, for sure. Listen,
I'm just lucky I can shed some of the stuff off, dude. Like I said, the way that I eat, it's like if I couldn't shed it, then we'd be
in trouble,
No,
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I feel you on that, man. It's good to be health conscious and set a certain goal where you want to be at and kind of stay at, right? And yeah, I like to I fast too. Like there's times where I fast. The longest I ever fasted for was like 36 hours. I did 24 hours not too long ago, and they're looking at me like, "You haven't eaten for 24 hours?" I was like, "Actually, I'm going on like 26 right now." They're like,
Yeah.
"Why?" And I'm like, it puts your body in ketosis, and like it just it's some people say it's good for you, some people say it's not good for you, right? But I try to not eat past a certain time at night. I try to keep one thing I find that's bad for us that we do wrong here in America is we have too big of a portions. Did you go anywhere, any restaurant, you order food, it's like, dude, I could eat this for 3 days. Literally, I could eat it tonight. I could eat it for breakfast, eat it for lunch, and one meal.
I had never traveled outside of the U.S. until this year, right after Daytona. I got home, we unpacked, and we repacked, and me and Allie left, and we flew to Mexico that next day, pretty much. And once we got there, and I'm eating this food, like it was all amazing food at this resort we stayed at. But I never realized just how, like, I mean, to be blunt, just how shitty as Americans we eat. You know, I mean, everything is just so loaded down with sugars, and it's not good. You know, like I said, I'm the last person to really track what I eat. If it's good, I'm going to eat it usually. But I mean, when I got back, it was like I avoided a lot of stuff because I'm like, this is not. Like this does not taste good. Like it doesn't taste. It's too sweet. It's got too much sugar. It's got too much whatever in it. It just don't. You know, you don't realize until you go to a foreign country where it's kind of like some of the stuff we were eating down there in Mexico. It's like, okay, this is kind of bland, but it's actually really good. You know, but then we realize, well, it's bland because this is how it's normally supposed to be. It's not supposed to be super jacked up on sugars and all that stuff. But
100%. I did the same thing when I went to the UK, and like for shits and giggles, I'm at the grocery store because I get it from my mom because I love to cook, right? That's where I get my home cook. I make my own salad dressings anyway. So I go there and I'm looking. I was like, man, I'm here. I'm gonna indulge. I'm gonna get me a bag of their Doritos or whatever it is, right? So I'll flip over the back because I always look at the ingredients, and I'm like, they literally got like 6 ingredients in this bag. So I Googled ingredients on American Doritos, and we got like 44 ingredients for the same shit, right? So they definitely do it better, and a lot of things too is we do so bad is processed sugars. You already said the processed sugars are so fucking bad for you. Your natural sugars are good. Your peaches, your plums, your blueberries, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, that other shit's fucking garbage. Bro, Celebrity Crush. Who is Kole King's Celebrity Crush?
I mean, it wouldn't be right if you didn't say Jennifer Aniston. I mean, come on. That's
Right?
yeah. She's still smoking, dude.
Bro.
Yeah, I mean, her, Megan Fox. I don't know. I like Jennifer Aniston more. I like more blonde hair, I think.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a beautiful woman. That's for sure.
Whether it be from early first couple seasons of Friends to yesterday, it's
Facts.
Yep, just like a bottle of wine, dude.
That's it. Finer with age, boy. So look, are you a beer or wine guy?
Oh, you show me a thing of Modelo's, I'll show you an empty box. Yeah. No, I don't. So I don't drink a lot. Very rarely do I drink. I shouldn't say very rarely. I it's more or less like if I'm going somewhere, like I don't like going out in town and drinking. I don't like. To me, it's one of those things that, man, if I go get drunk, then it's like I just feel like shit the next day, or that's you wasted a whole day. So I usually try to either once in a blue moon, I'll have some Mower beers, I think. If I go somewhere, whether it's like racing or traveling or stuff like that, I'll have a couple for dinner, or if it's been a long day, like I said, I usually don't ever drink around the races. Last weekend at Laguna was probably one of the first times that I did really drink at the races, but I only had 3 Modelo's. So I mean, it's not like I wasn't out there getting tore up doing wheelies down the front stretch, But no, usually Modelo's. That's pretty much my go-to. I'm a Modelo guy.
Me too.
So,
Modelo is definitely better than Corona. I don't care what anybody says. You guys are full of shit. Modelo is way better than Corona. 110%. Yeah, it's absolutely, man. So, are you and your wife currently binge watching anything on Netflix or Apple TV or anything like that?
No. Man, we've gone through some episodes. We've gone through some series. We did House of Dragons. What was it before House of Dragons? Game of Thrones. I did Game of Thrones. So usually what it starts out as is, hey, let's watch a show. So I sit down and watch a show, and then she'll lose interest on like the second episode or whatever. And then it's like, I'm stuck to this TV for the next week and a half, and she still watches, but some of it's like hard for her to follow or whatever. But just for the matter of like, she'll be watching and she'll be like, oh, I got to get up and do this. So she'll like walk away, and then it'll be like 20 minutes go by. So she's missed some of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think we've watched Euphoria. We've watched, all Games of Thrones. We've watched, what other big shows were there? Pretty
Breaking
much
Bad.
She's watched the whole Breaking Bad. I think I'm only on like the second season. Yeah. I haven't finished it by far. I'm trying to think of what all I have watched. There's a lot that we've watched, though. I do know that we've knocked a lot of the episodes out.
What are you guys currently watching right now?
Movies.
What movie you guys watching?
I want to go see Bike Riders, but it's no longer in our movie theater.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Yeah, sure. I want to watch Oppenheimer.
I do too, man. I've been hearing a lot.
Good.
Matter of fact, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about, was it 1897? Something where it keeps coming back. Bunch of podcasts I've listened to, they keep saying Oppenheimer movie, Oppenheimer. So I got to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely on my list.
What? Never mind. What else you got? I was going to ask you a question, but what else you got?
Yeah. Let me see. If you could choose one superpower, what superpower would you choose?
Teleport.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome. Dude, get me where I want to be right now.
Right now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to fly. I don't want to drive. Boom, let's go.
Yeah. No, I used to always drive to the races. the van and myself, and then mom and dad would they'd drive separate, or they'd already be down there or whatever, But there's a lot of the flat track stuff in the later part of my flat track career was I was just driving around by myself, which ain't a big deal. I enjoyed it, but I'd never got the privilege of just flying in. And then the Ridge, mom and dad, they've been in the camper, so they drove out, and I got to fly to the Ridge, got me a rental car at SeaTac, left SeaTac, went to the Ridge, raced, went back to SeaTac, loaded up, flew out. I'm like, okay, that's sweet. It's nice. You ain't got to worry about the logistics of getting out. You got to worry about getting in. I mean, kind of, I guess you still do. Yeah. Dad had, so side story. I get a call and he's like, well, when you meet my dad, you'll understand just the energy that was said with it. But he's like, well, we had some excitement on the trip today. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, he goes, he had a semi driver pull up next to us, an Arab, and he goes, we couldn't understand what he was really trying to get at, what he was wanting. But he kept pointing over, like, get over. And we was like, okay, so he said, we pulled over, and dad's got this big camper. You can't see trailers behind you, And truck driver comes out, and they meet in the middle in between the trucks, and dad's like, what's going on? He's like, you lost your trailer back there 5 miles. He's like, what? Dad walks around the back of the camper. There's no trailer on there. Mind you, his bagger is in there, so he can park and we'll go ride around, whatever. His bagger's in the trailer. My race bike's in the trailer. All of my parts, all of my extra wheels, my helmets, my leathers, all that stuff is in that trailer. And I'm like, he calls me and tells me that. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't have the trailer. And he's like, oh no, he goes, it's 5 miles back here. I'm just envisioning, because it was out on the edge of Idaho or Wyoming. It's somewhere, I think it was out on the edge of Wyoming, I think. And I'm just envisioning this thing off of a giant ravine, just yard sale out there somewhere in the desert, and no, what happened was the bolts from the trailer pack on the truck just unbolted, and the whole trailer and the trailer tow pack just goes off the road into the ditch. And luckily it was just a shallow ditch, like 100 more yards down, it would have been into a ravine for sure. The breakaway cable never broke, so it didn't lock the tires up. And the tow truck driver said if it would have broke, that trailer probably would have locked the tires up, went sideways, and then hit the ditch and just flipped. But tow truck driver pulled it up out of there and unhooked the hitch from it, hooked up to his truck, got it back to the tow yard. Dad found some bolts and got the trailer hooked back up to the motorhome, and away they went. I'm like, dude, that is nuts. I'm like, he called me and tell me that. I'm just envisioning, I'm like, is it okay? Like, tell me what's going on with the bike. Am I racing this weekend or what's going on? And he's like, man, he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm glad that I decided this guy might need something. Like, I need to pull over, because he goes, if I would have just been like, I'm not pulling over for you. Like, I don't want to get robbed or whatever. He's like, I would have got to wherever I was going 300 miles down the road and be like, where's our trailer at? It's terrible. But yeah, no. So yeah, then I flew into California, and that was cool. In Washington, my rental car was a Toyota Camry for $65 a day. And in California, my rental car was a BMW 4 Series for $41 a day. All-wheel drive turbo, and I'm like out here ripping these curves. I'm like, this is fun.
This is awesome.
Fun. Yeah. I was surprised I got that cheaper, but it was a good time.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, dude, this is the longest podcast I've ever done. We're almost 3 hours and 30 minutes into this, bro. So yeah, I'll say the rest of the questions for our next podcast would come up for the end. But what I usually do is I usually let you give all your shout outs, and then I'll do my shout outs. But I'm gonna go ahead and do mine, and then I'm gonna end it with you to let you give all your shout outs. But did you have a question for me?
Yeah, I was going to ask what you were talking about books earlier, and I wanted to know what book you suggest.
So
what's a good book that you would suggest to somebody right now?
Okay, so as far as books go, man, I listen to Of course, every motorcycle racer that has an audio book out there I've listened to, and by far the best one is John Hopkins Leathered. His audio book Kole is so super rad that he don't leave nothing out on the line. He was talking about being addicted to pain pills, being an alcoholic, smoking weed, and then racing a MotoGP bike. Like, you would never hear any other road racer talk about that, even if it was in their audiobook. That's what I loved about it. He was so open and true and honest. Other than that, I listened to another good book that I listened to that I recommend to everybody is called The Ragged Edge by Stuart Baker. It's all about the TT, the ups, the downs, the life lost, the new beginnings, the whole nine, right? But the book that I am currently listening to right now is this one right here, The Way of the Ronin by Tu Lam. He is a Vietnamese that got into the military. He talks about the whole racist that growing up being picked on for racist, even in the military, but he ended up being this badass Green Beret and overcome. It's one of those good overcome. I could do anything. Nothing's going to hold me down. Great books. So those would be my three recommends for right now for sure. 100%. But I have a shit ton and I'll text you all that.
Oh, that's good. Like I said, I figured that kind of took you off guard. I wanted to ask because I feel like that somebody else might want to,
No, yeah, for sure, absolutely. I enjoy it when I have friend. You're not a guest no more, Kole. You're my friend. I like it when my friends ask me questions too, on the podcast. It just brings a different element to it, right? Yeah. But yeah, so what I'll do is I'll give my shout outs real quick, and then I'm gonna turn the microphone over to Kole, and Kole will be the last one the last voice you guys will hear on the podcast tonight. So first shout out, of course, as always, is Next Level Financial. My man says Starnes, he'll take care of all your financial needs, whether it's retirement, you want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of. If something ever happens, look no further than Seth, of course. Bison, everybody needs to go to bisontrack.com, get your custom suit started. Please don't buy an off the rack suit. Go look Bison up, at least give him a shot. If you go to a Moto America race, at least go talk to him. Trust me, you'll be absolutely impressed with what they offer, what they have, and Robert and Tosh are just the most amazing people on the earth. Big shout out to the Clothing King. You guys can go to clothingking.co.uk. All my UK friends, European friends, you can go there and buy any Pin to Gas merch you want. We got hats, soft shell jackets, all that good stuff. Flying Eyes Optics. This is a company that I just hooked up with in Road America. These glasses are made in Austin, Texas. Look at this, dude.
Oh, that's nice.
Dude, they're so thin and so light. When I see you in Mid-Ohio, I'm going to say, here, Kole, take these, wear them for the day, give them back to me tomorrow, tell me what you think. They're so light.
If they bend, that's good because they'll wrap around this big old noggin. You might not want them back after that.
Dude, they snap back, trust me.
Good, good.
But they're made to, and you can get them in prescription. They're made to where everybody's putting glasses on underneath your motorcycle helmet, right? And if you say you didn't, you're full of shit. So not everybody does it, but there's a time that you have because you don't have a dark visor. Hey, I'm throwing my sunglasses on, yada yada. When you throw sunglasses on, they're stiff arm. They put pressure on your head, causes headaches and all that, right? But these things right here are absolutely made. My wife steals them from me. One of her best friends, every time we go to the pool, she's like, give me those sunglasses. She wears them all day long. But they are absolutely amazing. They're made and assembled in Austin, Texas. So they are American brand, the whole nine. You guys can go to flyingoptics.com, use the discount code PINTOGAS10, receive 10% off your full order. Of course, Chef Eats, man. You guys hear me talk about Chef Eats all the time. I don't know why you guys have not ordered your Chef Eats yet. I just got my meals in the other day. I got 8 meals in. I'm down to 2, and this has been 2 days ago. I mean, I've been banging them out, bro. No bullshit. Because I'm not cooking. I got Chef Eats. Why do I need to cook?
Exactly.
So, yeah, chefeats.com, SFL Mini GP out of South Florida. One of the best programs we have in America as far as the future of our sport goes. So, if you want to learn how to ride, all your 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, or 10 or whatever. You always want them to drag knees, learn how to ride, look no further than the SFL Mini GP. And what I love about them is I love all my friends there, but they have a program to where you just sign up and register, pay your registration fee. You don't have to have boots, helmets, gloves, jackets, motorcycles, or nothing. You show up, they provide everything, and you can rent bikes too. So SFL Mini for all your riding needs. They are absolutely amazing. Vet 2 Track, to all my vets out there, look no further than Vet 2 Track. You want to be around like-minded people that's gone through similar things, and you want to be happy and forget about all that. You know, you struggle with PTSD. I disagree. They should take the D off of that because they call it a disorder. It's not a disorder. When people go out and they serve our country and they go through things that we see on movies, it would definitely affect you mentally. I don't care what the doctors say. And there's different ways to help them guys out. And what Vet 2 Track does is they get them out there at the racetrack. They bring them around race bikes. They get them involved in racing. And it just takes their mind off of everything, right? And now they're smiling, they're happy, and they're having a good time. And then 64 Degree Racing. My man Tate sent me a custom undersuit right here. They're absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's basically all I have. And the last thing that I do want to say before I give the floor over to Kole is, man, thank you guys so much. Every man and woman that listened to this podcast for the 3 hours and 40 minutes we've been going on. Listen, thank you guys so much. It's an absolute honor to have the legend Kole King on the podcast. This episode will be out tomorrow everywhere but Apple, because I'm not on Apple yet. So Spotify, iHeart, everywhere, right? And if you guys have not yet, please do me a favor, go to my YouTube channel, Pin the Gas Podcast, like and hit that subscribe bell. I greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you guys so much. And the floor is the legend Kole King.
Well, I really don't have a whole lot to add to the floor. No, I mean, just my socials at Kole King 55 on Instagram. Add me on Facebook. If you see me at Moto America or whatever, you got some points or pointers or some sort of knowledge that you can sprinkle knowledge on me with or whatever. Or if you just want to say hey. Or if you want to say, hey, you know, your food sucks. Like don't eat on the weekends of the races, don't eat that much. But no, whatever you want to say, like I said, I always try to be very approachable. I always try to give everybody the time of day. Like I said, if you've got knowledge, if you've got, hey, pick your head up here, pick, whatever, I'm happy to help, or I'm happy to listen. Yeah, I really don't have anything to plug. My shop's King Performance on Instagram at King Performance. My personal page is at Kole King 55. Triumph Indianapolis for helping me out, and Eric at EDR Performance, he's doing all that he can to help figure out the electronics of this thing. Eric and John both, they've both been super grateful to work with and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, that's everybody else from Moto America, from the paddock. As far as the racers go, you guys are all great. I really, like I said, I really don't have anybody else to thank. I mean, my parents, mom and dad, my fiance. Yeah, that's pretty much, Indy Triumph. There we go, Mitch. Mitch is actually from Indianapolis, so it's funny because, like I said, I've met him through racing, and he went from Peoria, Illinois area. Gene, yes, Gene helps out. Man, he's just helping everybody out.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, no, huge shout out to Gene. Gene helped out. He's super, super knowledgeable. And like I said, I try to receive information as much as I can. Motul, I think they help out, and they don't necessarily know that they help out, but they help out. Yeah, I mean, there's, that's pretty much it, that's all I got, really.
Yeah, good. And listen, thank you to your wife for letting lending you to me for this whole time. So I know you're still listening. Thank you so much. Absolute honor. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did not get a chance to catch it, as soon as I end this, you go right back on YouTube and watch it. And like I said, it'll be out tomorrow everywhere but Apple. And ladies and gentlemen, absolute honor to sit down with the legend Kole King. Stay tuned for part 2. All right, let me end this.